Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the show today. Very happy to have you here. Hopefully, you all had yourself a really good weekend. Mine was super quiet as usual, but that's kind of what my weekends are. Today is hmm, it's overcast. At least it's not raining though, but it is overcast. It wants to rain. I do have myself a lukewarm cup of a tenth of a cup of coffee. I need more coffee, but happy to have you here. I'm just curious if you guys did anything particularly interesting this week as I go over here and hit the like and share. And then I'm also going to take a look at your chat here. So let me go ahead and do that. Night owls on women question mark. What could that mean? I don't know. I don't know. Let's see here. So let me go ahead and hit that like, and then I'm going to share it. Yeah, they're just button clicks. And so, my wife occasionally looks at my Facebook. I never look at my Facebook personally, but she seems to. And
Uh-oh.
she was showing it to me the other day, and I noticed the only thing I do on Facebook for years and years and years is this right here. Join us live. That's it. It's just this long stream of, but it's cool. It's a quick register of the shows I've done. Just going to my
A lot.
posts on Facebook. Yeah. Oh yeah, well over 1,000. Yeah, well over 1,000.
Oof.
Um, but I don't know why it is my wife looks at my Facebook when I don't pay attention at all. But I guess that's where my family posts, and
Mm.
she's kind of like everyone around me. It's like, why don't you communicate with your family? And I'm like, well, I don't know.
Yeah, that's kind of what Facebook is. It's for family.
Yeah,
It's for families and stuff. Like
well, that's cool.
other social media have other purposes, but Facebook is really the one for that. I don't know. I'm not allowed to have one under my actual name. I have to be, secret agent man to be on Facebook
Oh, I see.
because they banned me years and years ago. But yeah. So it's very interesting though because you know my father and I have basically the same name. We had different middle names, but same name otherwise. And sometimes, you know me, Chester. I'm not one to start trouble.
No,
Never.
never.
Not me.
Hmm.
I don't get in arguments either. That's just not who I am. But sometimes on Facebook, occasionally
Hmm.
I'd get in an argument with somebody and somebody else would see it and for some reason assume it was my father when he was still alive. And he used to get all kinds of flack for it from other people because I was arguing with this person about whatever. I don't even remember anything, probably. One time, I got in an argument with somebody about the Confederate flag because he was comparing it to the Nazi flag. And I said that's a ridiculous comparison
Of course,
because it
that's a
is.
super ridiculous comparison,
Yeah.
actually. Yeah.
Uh, but that's where they're at. There's people out there who unironically think that these are equivalent signs. These
Yeah.
are
Well.
that's just dumb.
Yeah, it
But
is dumb.
anyway, and this guy got somebody got triggered about it and brought my father thinking it was him. A whole bunch of like Confederate flag information, like printed it off. And he's like, What is this for?" He brought it to me. He said, "Some guy wanted me to give this to you. He thought it was me." So that's one of the reasons why a long time ago I changed my name when I still had my old Facebook. I changed it to something else so people
Mhm.
wouldn't think that I was him.
Oh, I
I just
see.
took my I just took my last name off of it actually.
I think
And
you should
then
be Clint Wakaba Shaba. I think that would be the best name. You could be Clint.
yeah,
Yeah, Clint's
good
good. You
old
sound
Clint.
like a Clint. Yeah, no, any person that's going to give you a bunch of information about the Confederate flag has clearly never lived in the South.
That's correct.
Because I inadvertently did. My dad's from Mobile, Alabama. I've spent every year we would go in summers and Christmas, and I did live there twice. So a little bit. I have a little bit of experience with the South. I'm not a Southerner. I am a damn Yankee, and proud
Yep,
of it, by the way.
yep.
But
Carpetbagger.
oh yeah, well, no. I went myself to New York a couple of times because there was money there, but I would not call myself a New Yorker either.
No.
Although when Grimlock's here, I'll definitely, just to be cool. Um, but anyway, when you go to the South, especially when I was younger, you could see anyone from any walk of life carrying the Confederate flag, wearing it
Yep.
on their vehicles, in their front yards, framed in pictures. It has nothing to do with any of the ugly negative stuff of the war. And then keep in mind, the Civil War, both sides had their points, right?
Hmm.
The North and the South had valid points, right? But from all of that type of stuff, and particularly slavery and stuff, that's not even the image of what the flag represented to those people. For
Right.
them, it was an identity. It was a separation from the Yankees of the North, and it was this promise that we shall rise again, we shall become valid and powerful again, and they have. And that's
Yep.
probably why you've seen a reduction in its use, not because of some screaming progressive.
Well,
They, you know,
it is a little bit of both actually,
maybe,
because there's a lot of people who are adamantly convinced. Usually, these are Northerners though, which is hilarious.
yeah.
That it's a symbol of racism, and I'm like, that's ridiculous.
Well,
It
to a
isn't.
northern, it might be.
Yeah, but Northerners don't get an opinion. I'm a Northerner. I don't get an opinion on what the people of the South do. That's their culture. It's a whole other culture. Like it's a whole other
Well,
situation. Granted,
you're,
they're still Americans, but they should be allowed to determine their own cultural norms and standards as
yeah,
long as they're not
you're,
harming anybody.
we're not claiming you. You're a part of the forge. Yeah,
Listen, you guys would have lost that war if it wasn't for us. You
that's
better
fair.
start claiming us.
That's fair. But we're kind of elitist like that.
You
The
are. You're
North,
all
we are.
pricks. We don't like you.
We
Yeah,
are.
stay on the coast.
Mm.
Good
Well, I
place
mean, what
for
do
you.
you want to do? We built the modern world. You know.
No, we built the modern world. You
No,
just got
no,
paid
no.
for it.
You poured metal into forms that we
And what's the
designed.
world built out of?
Yeah, yeah, fine. We thought of it. We're the brains, you're the sweat. Okay, I'll give you that.
Listen, this is goes all the way back to the pyramids. You've been taking credit for our building since
Hmm.
forever. I'm joining
It's
the
true.
Masons. That's it. I've
No, it
had
is
it.
true.
I'm in.
There you go. That is true. We are the ones that sit back and write all the things. Say, get to it. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's true. But
This,
anyway, but
Jesse,
I'm,
this is how communism started right here.
it is, it is. But no, seriously, if you're not from the South, I'd kind of shut up on that topic because,
Yeah, it's really none of your
they
business.
don't see it the way these progressives see it. And when they
Right.
come out speaking that, and the rest of people in the country and the world, it's very easy for them to say, "Oh, well, yeah, they're the ones that were fighting to keep slavery." It's easy to believe it, but
Yep.
the Confederate flag became something different. It became something
Yes.
different than it initially maybe
And
represented.
it
But
was only used by the army of the Confederacy
yeah,
for
it's
like
a
a
military
month or
flag.
two.
Yeah,
Right at the end. Up until then, it was the battle flag of Virginia. It
yeah,
was Robert E. Lee's flag,
yeah,
and they only adopted it at the end of the war. Basically, I don't even know why, just right at the end. And so this idea that even calling it the Confederate flag is mostly inaccurate. I mean, technically,
yeah.
yeah, it was, but it wasn't the flag they used for most of the existence of the Confederacy.
Well,
It was the battle flag of Virginia.
they were constantly trying to find ways to unify and
Yep.
to become an actual entity. Because one thing we didn't, one of the reasons why Confederacy ended up losing was that they weren't very coherently working together. Whereas in the
Hmm.
North, Lincoln had complete cohesion. The
Well, he's a
system worked
dictator,
for him. He
so
was, and if you
yeah,
said something he didn't like, well, he shut you down or you disappeared or something like that. He's very
reported you.
Clinton-esque.
Yeah.
Am I allowed to say that? Has it been 50? Damn it, it's only 13 minutes. Oh well, but yeah, no, I mean, it is kind of interesting the way that went. But nevertheless, we do got a lot of stuff to get into today.
Do it.
It's I always find it interesting because I only do one new show a week, which I kind of chill with it. I mean, if I had more free time, I'd probably be here doing something. I don't know. I got so much other stuff to do, but I probably would be. But the fact that I'm so crazy busy, lets me do it once a week. I'm kind of chill with it though. It's kind of
Mm.
nice, because the other thing is just for me. I just, for me, my nerddom. And the other one
Right.
I do for Pixel, but I've been doing it so long. I really love watching artists do their thing. Um,
Yeah. See,
that's
I don't.
it's guilty pleasure. Yeah. I know. It's okay. I do.
I'm a prick like that. I'm okay. I'm
Yeah.
fine with it. Yeah.
Well, we're lucky,
I like
dude.
a
We
lot of
have,
I like a lot of artists. I have a lot of friends who are artists,
yeah,
but as far as like the skill of it, I like looking at it when it's done. I don't really
yeah.
like watching them make
Well,
it.
I like to see a master do their thing at any time, no matter what it is. I enjoy it.
That's true.
But
Yeah, that can be
one
fun.
thing I can tell you about artists, though, they're sensitive.
They are. They're sensitive little sweethearts.
Yes,
Every
it.
one of them.
I guess I get under people's nerves. I don't know why.
Yeah, you do just a
Mm.
bit. It'd be see, Chester. This is why you don't me because I grew up in a family of complete sarcastic assholes.
Mm.
I'm the nice one,
Oh.
Chester. I'm the nice one
Oh.
in my family. That should tell you something.
Oh no,
So
I'm the asshole. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So I'm used to it. I don't. You can't. There. You would have to say something really nasty about my wife. That's about the only thing you could ever do to actually
Well,
offend me.
that wouldn't be funny.
No,
Yeah,
exactly. That would
I
just be the.
think they don't get me. For me, I am sarcastic in the way that if it isn't funny, what's the point of saying it? For me, and they don't get that. I'm always joking about this and that, and I tend to I upset some of the sensitive types because they don't get my sense of humor. You
Yeah.
know,
Which is funny because a lot of the same ones that you've upset really like me, and I'm like, guys, I'm a much bigger asshole than Chester.
yeah.
Way bigger.
I'm just
And I'm okay with it.
sarcastically, yeah, an asshole.
I
Yeah,
know exactly who I am. I made peace with it a long time ago. I'm fine with it.
yeah.
But one thing I always tell people, I will always tell you the truth. The problem is most people don't actually want to hear the truth. They want to hear something softer or nicer, kinder, sweeter.
Oh yeah,
No,
yeah,
no, no.
yeah,
Truth's hard and
yeah.
rough and
It's true.
cold.
It is true.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is true. But nevertheless, there has been a lot of interesting news. We're going to talk about one little piece of it here later, but it's not that special a segment. Um, so I could get to it a little bit now in our kind of pre-talk. But did you see the absolute insanity surrounding the sub?
Yeah, I saw tangentially I did. I've been a very busy boy myself. I saw other people talking about it and I'm like, why is everybody so obsessed about this sub? Like,
It is weird.
all right, a
Why is it
sub
that
got lost.
yeah,
Okay. Why
yeah.
why is this like literal international headline news?
It's interesting what hooks itself into the zeitgeist, right?
Yeah.
And the zeitgeist really is important because it's what history remembers, right? And it's
Yeah.
why a successful politician is always paying attention to the zeitgeist because they immediately want to ride the carcass of it, right? And of course we saw that happen with this sub, and it's just all the crazy shit, and the fact that why is this particularly interesting? I mean, I hope because when I saw the news, because the only reason I paid even any because I saw it, I just ignored it because I was okay, whatever. But my class last week was asking me about the sub, and I was like, yeah, I saw a couple things on it. Why should I care? I don't understand. I
Yeah.
mean, I hope I hope they find them, but I know they won't because as soon as I saw the initial news stuff coming through,
Yeah.
with and of course it developed, and we'll get into that later, the development later. But just the initial stuff, I was like, yeah, they were probably dead within the first few hours. I
Yeah.
mean, because I understood what the problem was, and it was they had some major catastrophic implosion happen probably as soon as they got to depth.
Yep.
Because as soon as I saw the old white man, the
Hmm.
actual lifetime sailor, engineer, sub guy, the
Yeah.
professional, yeah,
The
and
doer. Yeah.
the one they fired, that old
Yeah.
white guy, because he had said this thing isn't even rated for 4,000 feet. And they fired
Yeah.
him because he said that, you see.
How
As
dare
soon
he?
as yeah, how dare he? As soon as I saw that, I was like, "Oh, yeah, they died in very quickly."
Yeah. They
You
got
know?
literally crushed. Just
Oh, instantly,
dead.
yeah. I mean, you
Yeah.
won't even find out yeah, I mean, I hate to be morbid, but you won't even find bodies.
No, no.
Yeah.
Any meat that was left is gobbled up by now for sure by the creatures. The creatures, the cretins down at the bottom of the sea.
Oh, yeah, no,
Some of which we've probably never even seen before because we have absolutely no damn idea what's down there.
that is
None.
true. But no, that type of violent implosion, there wouldn't be anything left, it'd be pulp.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Just a bunch
So
of
yeah.
almost like looking like plankton out there, just little
Mhm.
chunks, bits and
Where do you
pieces.
think plankton come from? Dumb rich men
Yeah.
trying to build subs. Um Uh,
We're supporting the whole ecosystem of the planet off of the dumb rich men trying to be
Right,
submarine.
right, right. We do. It's an essential sustenance for the ocean.
I I
Gregory
will say
decided.
I
Go
I
ahead.
will say I do find it hilarious that these people who were too busy virtue signaling got with the exact same way that the evil white man, that evil 50-year-old boring white man, which is what the CEO guy said,
Yeah,
told them they would because they didn't
yeah.
want to listen.
Well, because
It's
he's
just
a
a perfect
professional.
encapsulation of the world right
Yeah,
now, Chester.
yeah,
Nobody wants to listen. Everybody knows better.
mm,
Okay, well,
yeah.
enjoy getting crushed to death.
Well, he
Enjoy
did,
that.
and it's a tragedy, of course. I mean, other than him, which is a little bit of karmic justice, really. The other
Yeah,
people, it's horrible. I mean,
yeah.
their life ended. It's tragedy for their families. It's not a good thing, but of course,
I'm
everyone
just
thought it
saying,
was funny.
I'm not going on a sub
No,
unless I know. Unless somebody I trust has been like, yeah, that's safe. Right? I
well,
need I
yeah,
need a lot more than just credentials. I need a relationship here. I need to
right.
know you. Make
And we
sure you're qualified.
and we saw a few people back out of it once they saw it. It was like, yeah, nope,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm
But
not getting in there.
Gregory
Mm-mm.
here says, I guess that the people who, were murdered, and the submarine story is a cover story. That's how conspiracy theories start, right there.
Yeah.
Thank you, Gregory.
But it'd be a good way to do somebody right there. Yeah, the sub imploded. Never find anything. There'd be
It's
no
true.
evidence
That's true.
otherwise.
It's
Be a
true.
great way to get rid of a body. Hmm.
That's true. Yeah, it would be.
I'm
It
just
would be
saying.
the way. It would be the way.
Yeah.
We don't let the don't talk too loud so loud the mafia might listen. Uh, the thing is funny about the mafia. Okay, side tangent.
Uh-oh.
Because I've been teaching Greek lessons, Greek history. I've had this responsibility of late, right?
Yeah.
And I was kind of going through. A thing, and I had some students. So it was a couple weeks ago, I guess. Where I don't know how the conversation got into that because I kind of will let the class go to a point and see where they go with it to create conversation, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes, and they somehow got on to the mafia. I don't know how
Mm.
it got there. I wasn't paying attention, but anyway, uh, I said, well, you do realize that is interesting. You talk about mafia, and we're actually here studying Greek history because at that time I think I was talking about the Greek Revolution of 200 years ago. And do you realize all of that mafia stuff is actually Greek? And they were like, I was like, yeah. And I went to explain it all because it's most people identify the Italian mafia as a Sicilian thing, but who are the
Yeah.
Sicilians? Well, they're
They're Greek.
Grecians. One of the most
Yeah.
famous Greek Sicilian was a little dude called Archimedes.
Yeah.
Little guy.
Of
Yeah,
Syracuse,
of
which
Syracuse.
is in
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
southeast
Yeah.
Sicily.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's he's Sicilian. But
Yep.
and a perfect proof, if you want to know, go back and look at that revolution for 200 years ago, which gave you the modern state that the world calls Greek, but they don't call themselves Greece. It is kind of interesting. But
Yeah.
whatever, we call them Greece. And if you go back and look, and you just the history of that the guerrilla warfare of that, it is pure mafia macho bullshit, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So
It is funny though that I mean, the very little known secret because Rome gets gets a lot of the praise because it became what it
they
became.
did.
But I
Yeah.
mean, it was just Greek. It was just a Greece, quote unquote, just a transplant. Basically almost a colony at one
It
point,
was a
and
colony.
their
Yeah.
yeah, and their culture, yeah, it was a colony, and their culture that they transplanted took over the local culture and absorbed it entirely
Hmm.
through conquest and other means, mostly conquest. And it's just interesting that however, the Roman quote unquote culture became the dominant one and the one that historically I would say the most prevalent, at least the one that's most taught. But yet it was still just another continuation, effectively, of what we call the Greeks.
It
Just right
was,
on that, just like all of them are. It's crazy.
especially the intelligentsia, without
Yes.
question. Yeah. But basically, they were Etruscans,
Yeah.
and the Etruscans were really, really good at making wine. That was kind of
Yeah.
their thing. They were winemakers. And when you had the Grecian, we had the early Hellenic, Civil War, and the Grecians escaped to the Western colonies. They, of course, their influence on the Etruscans grew and grew and grew, and eventually it became Rome.
Yep.
So that is true. But
Then
don't
they had
tell them that; they won't like it.
they don't like the truth. I know
Hmm.
it's again, Chester. That's why. This is why I'm an asshole because I tell people the truth. They
It's
just don't
true.
like it.
Well,
Um,
something is
I
very,
always say
yeah,
one of my famous phrases I would tell people when I would tell them the truth and they get mad at me. I'd be like, if you're mad at the truth, you're not mad at me. You're mad at yourself
yep, that's true.
because whatever
Ignorance
the
and
truth is doing to make you feel,
hmm
whatever it is, that's your problem. The truth itself is never the problem. That's your relationship with it is the problem.
that's fair enough. And maybe you shouldn't get upset about things so easily.
Yeah. Toughen
Yeah.
up, Buttercup.
Yeah, toughen up, Buttercup. The interesting thing, though, I wanted to add to it was the fact that last night we're trying to find something to watch, and I was just kind of clicking through YouTube, and my YouTube's kind of boring. But
Mhm.
I do like history stuff, and my wife saw a thing, and she was like, Machiavelli. I said Machiavelli, baby. And she's
Machiavelli.
like, "Oh, that looks interesting. I see you want to watch that." She said, "Mm-hmm." How long you think it took for her to go to sleep during that?
Not very long.
No. Yeah.
Oh,
But I
that's
guess
funny.
maybe it served its purpose. It put her to sleep. Because Niccoli Machiavelli,
Yep,
very interesting fella. Very interesting
he
fella.
was. He was
Um,
very
uh,
influential man,
he was.
unfortunately.
Well, I mean, I don't know about that, but he is influential. But that's during the warring states period of Italy, of course.
Yep.
And the thing that reminding me of that when I was watching it last night was today we have a little place in Italy called Milan, right?
Mhm.
And of course, it's a famous place. It's one of those Italian names you know. But do you realize that that's actually a French colony, and they tried forever and ever and ever to get that back, and it changed hands with the French over and over and over. And
Hmm.
today we don't identify Milan in France at all, do we? But
No.
in reality, it has a very long history with France.
You want to hear something terrible, Chester?
You don't care?
This might no, no,
Yeah.
no, that's actually interesting. I didn't know that. But you know what is hilarious and is probably going to piss you off as a man who loves him some language?
Hmm.
In Michigan, just to the north of me, about 40 minutes, there is a town that is spelled exactly the same as Milan,
Uh-huh.
and it's pronounced Milan.
Of course it is.
Yeah,
Americans.
because it's Michigan. Yeah. No, 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 no,
Yeah.
no, 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 no. It's Michigan. We don't
Fair
do
enough.
that in Ohio. Our towns are pronounced the same way they are everywhere else.
Mhm.
Well, that's not totally true because we do say Toledo instead of Toledo. But regardless, that's because of English. This is
It's a
because they're
Spanish
just
state.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a Spanish thing.
Yeah.
Uh, this is just because Michiganders are ridiculous people. All of them, without exception. Ridiculous people, Chester. And
Yeah.
yes, I am saying that with full Ohio bias.
Yeah, of course, of course. Well, I know about Toledo because I watch MASH.
Yeah,
Klinger,
good old Farr, old Jamie
live
Farr.
forever, Mr. Farr. But
Yep.
I heard Michigan was just like we should call it Michigan and Michigan Stan.
Yeah,
It's
there's
all run
big,
by Muslims now, right?
huge chunks of Michigan that are very Islamic. But you know what? Listen, they reject the rainbow in Islam pretty hard. So I guess I guess since Christianity has decided it's just going to tap out and go home in America, it's just done. I guess we're going to have to pick our new cult, and I'd much rather have the moon over the rainbow. Thank you. Give me the crescent moon over the rainbow any day of the week.
Yeah. Now, okay.
I'm just saying.
Until it bites you in
Just
the
saying.
ass.
Well,
But
listen, they're all going to do that eventually.
eventually, yeah.
They're all a double-edged sword because they're nonsense. Religion is nonsense. Sorry, religious people, but religions are nonsense. They are, and everybody knows it, but
Faith
people
is
go
cool,
along.
but
Faith is not. Faith
yeah.
is awesome, and having discipline and things you believe in, you should do that. But the organized religions are nonsense. They're
Oh,
nonsense. They're a money laundering scheme. I don't care what anybody says.
well, I've gone to war with the Muslims several times, Gregory. and it's always about some kind of corrupt money scheme.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
Uh,
Lots of
uh,
lots of scheming and scamming. I grew up in a church with mostly good people, but I'm gonna tell you right now, the books of that church, whoo boy, they were dirty. I don't care what you would, they just were, and I have no doubt that that's every church in the country and
what do you
every
mean
church
dirty?
probably in the whole world. Just funds would just show up. You know what I mean? Like
Oh, you're talking
sometimes because
the books. Oh, okay.
the books, yeah,
All
yeah.
right.
So like, because I was a member, and in this church they had a charter and basically a constitution for the church. So any member was allowed to see the books if they wanted to. And my father was a deacon. He saw them all the time, and he was a businessman, so he knew when books looked a little, you know, a, a little cooked, we'll call it.
Yeah, well,
And
it is
yeah,
set up to make money.
yeah,
Let's be fair.
yeah.
Not always in a bad way, but that is the
No, they do
premise.
good. They did good things with it. It's not
Sure.
like they're out here causing trouble, but yeah,
Yeah.
I
Well,
know.
no, it is set up for that. That I guess if we're talking about the difference between the two, which seems where we've degraded to,
Yep,
at least the Muslims, in the most part, are a state-run religion. Therefore,
that's right.
you don't have the same kind of money troubles necessarily. Well, it depends on where it is, I guess.
That's true.
But nevertheless, yeah.
Chester, I'm fired up. I was around my whole most pretty much my whole family today,
Mhm.
and yeah, they get me fired up. They get me going a little bit. It's not it because they're all like me, and it's just constant. Somebody's getting hit. Somebody's gonna get picked on about anything. We'll pick like my nephew was wearing a hat. It was a perfectly fine hat, but I had to pick on him about something, so it was his hat. The whole day, every
Mhm.
time I got a chance, I'd say that hat makes a lot of sense. Every time I would find some reason to make him wearing that hat a negative
Yeah.
to the point where he literally at one point took it off and was looking at it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's just how we do. We pick something and we
Sure.
just pick on you
Yeah.
about it. Doesn't have to even mean anything. We'll just
Well,
pick on you.
I usually just let my family go and go and go, and then after they've exhausted themselves with words, I say, "No." So,
Just cut them right out under the
yeah,
knees.
just
Just
no.
pow.
Gregory says, "I've studied world history for decades, and much of the time was wasted because it turned out that the history I was studying was fiction." Yeah, no, yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Mhm. And I'm a professional historian, Gregory. Whatever that means. But
It's a bullshito. It means
yeah,
you're a well paid bullshitter,
I
Chester.
am.
That's all.
I am. That's what that means. Yeah. But yeah, it's all nonsense. Who knows what's what? Who knows? We don't know.
Nobody knows.
Yeah.
Think about this for a second. Like, it's hard for me to even remember not having a cell phone because it's become so like ingrained in us now to have the access instant. What I mean by a cell phone, I mean instant access to information,
Mhm.
right? So, like, if I want to know something about anything, just pick a topic. I can Google it in 5 seconds and have a litany of information. Now, a lot of it's probably BS, but there's enough in there that I could probably get to some form of truth. And usually on general factoids, Google's fine.
Mhm.
When you get into politics is when it gets a little murky. But when you're talking just like general information about like, oh, how much should a dog eat in a day or whatever, that would
Right.
have
It's
taken
very
you
useful.
a minute to figure out at least. It would take it some time probably to find out. You have to find the right expert or find the right textbook, go to a library or something before, unless we, especially before the internet. But even before a phone, it would still you had to sit down at a computer, get an internet connection somewhere, and blah 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 blah. It would have taken some time. So a lot
A
of
little
us
bit.
don't understand how easy it is for information, which is all history is. It's
Mhm.
just information to us. For
Yeah.
information to get lost. So much information is lost. There are kids today who are born who don't know how to do things
Mhm.
that you and I grew up doing on a very regular basis,
Sure.
and they'd be completely flummoxed if you gave them certain objects that we used all the time.
Mhm.
And it's because they just don't need them anymore. We have technologies advanced and blah blah blah. But there may come a time when you need that analog way of doing things, and the knowledge is just gone. It's just not there. It's impossible to find. A great example throughout history is toilets, plumbing,
Mm.
working plumbing. We
Yeah.
lost that throughout a huge portion of European history anyway. Lots of places didn't have such things
Oh, don't get me on
for
that.
a very good reason, and it took a very long time for us to get back to it. That's just one example, though. There's examples I'm saying in everybody's life where you've forgotten something and you'll never have that information back, most likely. And it's just that's how easy it is.
Yeah.
That's how easy it is to lose history, to lose knowledge, information, especially if it's 2 generations ago. There's nobody left who remembers it, or somebody who's in their 90s or something. They don't
Mhm.
remember it. So it's just gone.
Yeah.
It's just gone. It's funny because I was thinking about that the other day. Like, we have the internet now, we have databases and all this stuff. Back in the day, to have the same or a similar level of access to information, they had to have whole archival ar- archives, just huge litanies of books and things, all different things that somebody had to know where that information was. So if you wanted to know about, I don't know, the population of New Hampshire in 1905, somebody had that book with that information somewhere, but
Sure.
you had to find that person and find
Yeah.
the guy who had it. Now you can just Google it, pop, pop, pop. There you go. There it
Yeah.
is.
Well, it's handy.
It's it's
Uh,
it's
yeah,
crazy how easy it is to lose history. How
sure,
easy it is.
but people don't use it though.
That's
I
true.
mean, I saw this thing the other day. I think it was on. My wife likes that show, Zeducation,
Mhm.
right? And it's funny. I enjoy things that are humorous in that regard. And there he was showing, I guess it was a TikTok or something like that. These kids in, I don't know why they were in this place, but on the wall was a phone jack, right?
Yep.
And they were like, what is this? Some kind of spy camera?"
Well, it could be. You could make
It
it into
could be.
that if you
You
wanted.
could, yeah.
Um,
But I was like, really? Is it been
yeah,
that long?
it has. They don't even know, man. They don't even know. Like, I know I grew up out in the country, so it took us a while to even get internet. So all my friends who were living in towns or whatever already had it, so I had to go over to their house to do whatever. If it was look something up online or whatever, I had to go to their house and do it. I remember back in the day playing video games, and let's say I was playing Grand Theft Auto, and I wanted the cheat codes. The only way for me to get them until I remembered them was to have my friend print them, and then me go get the print and bring it back to my house, just so I'd have access to all the cheat codes in GTA 3, I think it was.
Mhm.
Eventually, I just memorized them and could just do them in a second. But at the time, it took energy, it took effort to get this knowledge, whether it was completely useless knowledge, but it still took time to get. So now imagine something that isn't completely useless, but isn't used very often, right? Like, I know one of the reasons why we keep building, according to the government anyway, the reasons why we keep building aircraft carriers, even though we don't really need them, is because they're afraid if they stop, they won't be able to do it again. They're worried that if they stop building these massive machines, which is what
Mhm.
they are,
Yeah.
they won't have the working knowledge to
Oh yeah.
recreate them.
No, it happens all the time.
Yep.
Gregory's he's going to have someone knocking on his door soon, I think. But Gregory, I'll give you an example. When I was a young college student, which means a lifetime ago, and I actually. I'll give you I'll give you this example, and then you just take it for what you will. But it was just a history class, right? And I think there were a few photographs, but mainly it was just art. But in the same class, we had already studied, architecture as art. It was one of those history classes, and we had seen all these, old, beautiful archaeological buildings that are still around, right? And we were looking at those kind of buildings, and there are thousands and thousands of them around the world, right? And we had studied those, and then later, in probably the second semester, I guess, or the second course, we were looking at artistic representation of architecture, and of course there was a lot of crossover, right? So
Yep.
you had what we had modern, buildings are from ancient time, and then we
Mhm.
had art from a long, centuries ago, and of course the architecture in those pictures were the same things we had looked at before, but in these pictures there were people moving around in them. And in the other thing with the modern ones, yeah, there was a few images, and I had noticed that had people in it. I had noticed that there were a couple of them. I had noticed that in the art, the person leaning up against the column of that building, the one we had seen earlier,
Yep.
was twice as big as the other person. And I noticed this, and I was like, well, "That's weird." And I asked the professor. This was a smaller class. It was probably only maybe 30 of us in that class, right? So it was a smaller room, not one of the big lecture halls.
Sure.
But I asked the professor, I said, "Why is that?" And he said, "Oh, they just weren't good at art." But I was like, "This is the most beautifully detailed piece of sketch art you'd ever seen in your life.
They got the perspective way
It just is
wrong.
way wrong, even though it's perfect in every way, right? Even the people look perfect in their suits and stuff like that, and, but that's the answer, right? But the thing
Oh
is,
no.
Gregory, there are you if you go and put the work in, the study in, you will find
Yep.
that there are a lot of examples of very tall people right in front of you. And you don't really
Ye
realize it because you're not doing that comparison. You don't know the thing they're standing in front of. When you go to the museums, there a lot of that art is full of people who are very big. I mean, very big,
Yep.
like 8, 9 foot, foot tall at least. But you don't realize it because they're portrayed normally because they were being portrayed normally. But there's a lot of it, right? And of course, we have skeletons left and right. I don't know why we're not allowed to talk about it. But there has to be more than 30,000 years ago. If they get a giant skeleton from more than 30,000 years ago, they're cool. They'll talk about that. But
Yep.
anything after that, you're not allowed to talk about that. Yeah,
We're gonna have to do it again, Chester. We're gonna have to do a TFT on the Giants because
maybe I should.
Giants the Giants are real, folks. I don't know why academia pretends that they're not, but they are. And actually, it's funny because Greg Lee said he's in Ohio. Ohio is a hotbed of information about the Giants,
Sure.
big time. This is
Yeah,
one of the
the
places where the
Americas.
cover up worst, and I don't know why. I don't
Yeah.
know why we're covering this information up. It's very
It's weird.
weird.
Yeah. Well, you have when during this last movement of Europeans into a supposed movement into the Americas, there's
Yeah.
there's tons of captains' logs and journals and stuff of them interacting with giant people. Tons.
Yep.
I mean, it's not like one example. There are literally hundreds of examples I can think of just off the top of my head, and I've never really researched it deeply. It's probably thousands. It
Probably.
wasn't a thing to them. It was like, oh yeah, well, there's giants over there. Matter of fact, they even, oddly enough, they named places after it. Like, say, I don't know, Patagonia.
Yeah.
You know, so it was so frequent from them to see giant people that they literally just named it the place of the big-footed people. Literally, right? So I mean, and there's many other things like that as well. We have many examples. A lot of the ancient rulers were ridiculously tall. I mean, Nero was supposedly somewhere up around 9 foot tall, right?
Yep.
The Caesar Nero. But there were a lot of them were
Ab-
super tall. But no one talks about that. When you see Nero in a movie, he's always some little Jew. You know,
Yes, which is
and
odd.
I get it. I get it. But those were at minimum Scandinavians. Those were all blonde and
It's just
blue-eyed
such a
people.
weird one because it's not even a theory. Like it's just the bone. We have the skeletons. We got pictures and pictures of them. We have the bones. They're real.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
we have to all just look the other way, and it's so weird. There's no good reason that I can think of, like the logical reason why that would need to be covered up,
Mhm.
other than maybe the Giants aren't gone. Maybe they're the boss, Chester. Maybe they're still ruling the world, and they just don't want nobody to know
Maybe
about it.
it's possible. Yeah, Gregory here is certainly a Sitchian. Um,
Uh oh.
and nothing wrong with that. I enjoyed his books. I read all of them. They were fun.
Yep.
But Sitchin, Zachariah Sitchin, I think he did something quite interesting and useful. A lot of people like to, mar his name for some stupid reason, but I was like, I don't know. I think what he did was cool. It's not all 100% correct, but he had a lot of the right ideas, though. I think.
On the
Uh,
right path.
yeah,
It
yeah,
seemed
yeah.
like
I don't have a problem with Sitchin whatsoever. And you, Gregory, should go watch yourself some Lloyd Pye. I think you'd like that.
Lloyd Pye action. Well,
Yeah.
because think about this for a second. So we have a lot of questions on how some of these ancient buildings got built because there's just no way. There's no way normal humans with the technology they allegedly had did a lot of this precision and a lot of this weight. Even if you had bunches and bunches of them, it's just a ridiculous effort it would take to do it. But pepper in a few giants, things get a little bit easier. It's a little bit more simple to move the giant stone around if you got, 15 really big guys doing it instead of 150 little guys.
Yeah, no, no,
Makes
no.
a little
That
bit more
yeah,
sense
it does make
if
more
the big
sense.
boys show up.
But I think there were just different types of humans, you can get that conversation. I don't agree with that, Gregory. I don't think he was a scammer at all. I think he was just an amateur historian, and he was a linguist. He was that absolutely. That saw some interesting things in his translations, and he put it into modern parlance. Is what he really did. I don't think he's a
Mhm.
scammer at all. Unless you want to get into the letters of Anki. But once again, he said right in the forward of that book, this is a fiction of what he thinks might have happened. So he said it was a fiction. But yeah, I don't have anything against Mr. Sitchin. I think he actually added things to the conversation and let more.
Was
He opened up the world for people to speculate, and I think that's a good thing. Him and Von Doniken and those guys like that. I think they opened the world up, and that was good.
It's funny we got started talking about this because we were talking about how history's nonsense, right? Nobody really knows. Nobody really, really knows. We think we
No, we
know.
don't know.
The only thing we know is most of our historical records and data and what we would consider text is just gone. It was destroyed or
It
evaporated over the
was.
years or whatever. So we don't actually know. What we have is accounts from people who allegedly lived there, and many of them probably did, but they're just accounts, right? It's not really evidence. That's just some guy's perspective on something that happened. Doesn't necessarily mean that's exactly how it happened. So nobody has hard data for a lot of things. And the reason why I even started saying that is because in our own lifetimes, many of us have forgotten stuff that we never thought we would. And we've just forgotten it for whatever reason. One of the best examples is when somebody you love dies, you forget what their voice sounds like if you don't have a recording. You will not remember it. You'll remember them saying words, but it won't be in their voice because their voice you just lose it. And that's
Mm.
just that's something as personal as someone you love, like a parent or even a child or a spouse or whatever. That's something you're going to lose all on its own. So this idea that these people wrote this stuff down and it's perfectly accurate because they wrote it down, that's ridiculous. Of course it's not. Nobody's memory is that good, and the very, very, very few people who are so rare that it'd be. I mean, the chances of their particular writing being the one that survived is ridiculous.
Mhm.
It's impossible. Basically, it's close to impossible as you could get because we know whether through zealotry or incompetence or just ignorance, so much of history's been lost or destroyed. There's no possible way to guarantee that what we have is from the best of the best, the brightest of the
No,
brightest.
yeah, that is true. And of course, one of the things Sitchin did, and maybe that's a big confusion to you, Gregory, is what he did because he was a true linguist. And what he would do is, okay, here's this word in this language, and how is it being used and applied by this culture, these other languages around it? He was constantly comparing the cultures around a thing and seeing how it worked in real time in real life, and that's where a lot of those assumptions that he came to that were, as far as the Hebrew you're talking about. However, if you really want to get down into the actual meaning of ancient Hebrew stuff, the
Oh,
Chaldean, right? What you need to do is go listen to Mr. Biglino. Biglino is the actual philologist for the Vatican. Yeah,
yep. He
you know,
knows his
you
stuff.
can't get more certified than that. And if you go look at a lot of his translation and conversations that he's had with people asking those kinds of questions, you'll find that more often than not, his translations are leaning very close to Sitchin, dude. I was a bit surprised, to be honest with you, because, like I said, I read Sitchin way back when I was a kid, and I enjoyed it. It was fun. It was certainly an interesting look, because what he was trying to do was take the ancient Mesopotamian stories and put them in modern lingo is what he's really trying to do,
Mm.
so that you could understand it. But as time has gone by, and you have so many other people getting into it, and like I said, I think he was a really good entry drug into that in that field, just like Van Deniken was, and Graham
Well, there's a
Hancock to a
lot of
point.
yeah, there's a
Yeah.
lot of They call them amateurs, but they're as professional as anybody else.
Sure.
Professional historians and researchers who exist out there because of him.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
I think
whether
it's
he was
important.
right, wrong, even if he was a scammer, doesn't really matter because he opened that door in a way that hadn't been opened.
Mhm.
Academia is so, and it always has been, is such a boys' club, quote unquote. I hate that term because of the feminists, but that's what it is. If you know the right people, you get to the right spots, and as long as you don't, rock the boat too much, they like you. They don't want boat rockers in there. They pretend that they do. It
Sure.
sounds good at conferences or whatever, but they don't. I mean, Chester, you know that full well. That's not what they
Yeah.
want. They
Yeah.
don't want people challenging their narratives.
No, they
So
don't. But I think it's
it's
cool that so
good to
many
have.
are. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. That's a good thing because that's how you find knowledge.
Yeah,
Questions,
that's where
the
you
only
can,
way to gain
suss it
knowledge.
out. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
That he doesn't trust the Vatican. No, and neither does Bigolino.
Oh, don't
Yeah.
trust them. Please, God,
No,
don't trust the
and neither
Vatican.
does he. Yeah. But I'm just saying that Sitchin is not as far off base as you think he is. His method was a bit different because he was comparing cultures around the thing that he was talking about. But
Mm,
I think it's very interesting to see because a lot of times, if you want to see how things were interacting and cultural, like slang and cultural understanding a lot of time it's good to see what the other cultures were thinking about because a lot of time when people rewrite history what they do is they rewrite their history right about a
yep.
specific thing that's important to whoever is doing it but the cultures around lived through it too because they're interacting and trading with each other obviously and they
That's right.
probably have their rewritten of history thing too but it's not the same therefore you can find holes, cracks in the information by doing that and comparing.
Yep.
Oh, they think they use the word in this way, and over here it's saying it isn't used that way, but everybody around them was using that way because their propaganda was different than that propaganda. It's very interesting way to study and look at things, and I think there is information to be had there. And like I
I
said,
mean,
someone who's not connected to this conversation whatsoever with Big Lino
yep.
he's very interesting because he's just a philologist, so I respect the hell out of him because that's what I do. But he's very interesting because this man, which unfortunately I've seen a few videos of him recently, and I don't think he's going to be with us much longer, sadly.
Oh,
But yeah, no, it's unfortunate. He's such a genius. But the thing that's interesting when you're going to look at it is he has no skin in the game right?
yep.
So he's just answering questions mainly from a religious point of view of what do these mean and he's been a proponent for quite a while and is starting to catch where he's like there's certain words in the Torah in the Quran in the Bible and things like that that we shouldn't translate at all
Mm,
because they had various uses and it depended on the context. And the
yep.
interesting thing is, he did a series of videos with one of those alien conspiracy guys. And they were just talking language, and that was an interesting series of stuff because usually Big Lino stuff is super dry, right? Because it's well. It's philology, but those are interesting conversation because this guy was asking a lot of questions, and Big Lino would push back sometimes, right? But what he's showing you is when you do that and you go and read the text without translating, just use the word, it takes on a very different feel because you're like, oh well, this is talking about this thing, therefore it doesn't make sense that it's translated as that. That's weird. But if
Hmm.
you just let it float in there as the word itself, then it takes on the meaning itself because context defines it. And I like his approach. Um, uh, I understand, Gregory. I just never, and I'm not. I have no skin in that game either. I just never found Sitchin to be a scammer. I just never saw him that way. But like I said, he was an interesting writer. For me, I'm more interested in the various data we have access to and how we can look at it.
Yep.
But nevertheless, even if he was a scammer, what he did do is open up the field, and that's great. And
Great example of where that's benefited humanity immensely and has now made it to where most joints, ligament, bone injuries can be healed compared to even 20 years ago is chiropractors. Chiropractic. Chiropractic chiropractorism was created as a scam. originally. The guy was just scam. He was just a medicine, like a snake oil salesman, effectively.
Yeah.
But he accidentally created something that works if done right.
I'll be back in a minute.
If you do it correctly, you can do all sorts of things to help the body heal, to help the body just move. As you get older, your bones don't like to move as much as they used to. This guy stumbled into effectively a new form of medicine, which isn't really new, but a new version of it. Um, and now you have, a litany of chiropractors who actually are, some of them are still shady, but a lot of them are very, very real, to the point where my doctor growing up, my general doctor, he would do chiropractic treatments on me on my back because I told him my back hurt a lot. And I would go in there, and he, even as a young kid, and he would, teenager, and he would do a back adjustment, a chiropractic back adjustment on me, and it would feel so much better for as long as it took, whatever it was, till I came back. But that's just one example from my own personal life. But I know plenty of people who have had all sorts of damages, injuries, whatever, that I can't even say the dang word, chiropractors have fixed. Uh, and that's just one example of where a scam can be used for good. Now, whether or not the guy who created it should be revered, that's largely up to the people, I guess, the people in the field. But that's just one example. And literally, because of the work of chiropractors and how they've proven that pretty much most nagging injuries in the joints, especially, are caused by inflammation, not inflation, inflammation. Uh, it was chiropractic that led us to that information. Believe it or not, it was the fact that when you take these and you stretch them and relieve that pressure caused by the inflammation,
Hmm.
um, and it causes healing, healing to start to do its job, the body to do what it does. That was largely due to chiropractors preaching it for years, and it took finally medicine to catch up. Now we have a bunch of studies on it that it's most joint injuries rather are some form of inflammation or caused by inflammation. Chronic pain is almost all inflammation. Things like this. And that's, like I was saying, that's because of chiropractors over the years.
Yeah.
The scam became an actual science, well, science, quote unquote, in an art
Well,
form almost, that works.
and I don't know about any of that. I haven't studied that, but
Oh, it's true. Oh,
I
it's
do
damn
know.
true.
Well, and great, but I do know one of the people is very. I can't remember his name, but there's a scientist who's been working with water for his whole career, and he's done two amazing things. One, he identified and classified the fourth state of matter, but
Yep.
he also found the relationship with swelling, as you're talking to, as far as how water and its positive negative negative particles are interacting with each other, and
Hmm.
he's put forward, and a lot of his study led to scientific medical treatments that have reduced paralysis and a lot of things like that. So chiropractic, I have always thought it had its some value anyway, but that coupled with this doctor, I think is going to give you a lot of benefit,
Yeah.
because we've seen some of it start, some of his studies starting to come into application, but I think over the next decade or two you're going to see more and more and more of it,
Oh, it's
and that's great.
crazy how fast especially athletes and stuff, they heal now. Like stuff that would have taken them career-ending stuff, even they can heal them in 2 3 months without crazy medicine or whatever, just through basic understanding of what's causing the damages and what's causing the pain. Because really, it's most of your injuries do heal that quickly. They heal very quickly. It's just
Sure.
lingering pain as the body, readjusts the nerves and what have you. Some people never
Right.
readjust. Apparently, my one cousin, he hurt his leg a few years ago, and it'll never recover. It'll always hurt.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
stuff
no,
like that can happen too.
no,
But
inflammation is quite damaging, it's true.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It's just
can't
that's
remember that
just
guy's
where it
name.
that's how that's one of the ways they put that puzzle together. And now you have these athletes and things, and just regular people too. You can recover from injuries so much faster. A great
Hmm.
example is my favorite John Cena, my favorite Chester.
Hmm.
One time, I don't remember what it was. I think it was a tricep tear. Tore his I'm pretty sure it was a tricep tear, and they were supposed to be out for months. He was back in a month. A month. Because obviously he's in great condition physically. but also the what's it called, physical therapy and the chiropractors and the doctors
Mhm.
got his arm back together and got him ready to get back in the ring in a month off a tricep tear. That's
Yeah.
crazy fast.
Yeah, no, I remember that was pretty impressive. But whatever. I mean, simple fact of the matter is that we're constantly trying to evolve our understanding, and I'm sure
Yep.
we can find improvements from many disjointed fields, and that's a good thing. And of course, Gregory, there are scammers everywhere in every single solitary thing that exists. If money can possibly be attached to it, scammers. I live in Japan.
Scammers.
Japanese can sell ice to frickin' Eskimos. So, I understand exactly what you mean. But not everything necessarily has evil intent, right?
That's true.
Even if it may be perceived that way, or even benefits the person that way, it isn't necessarily malicious. But nevertheless, it doesn't matter. This conversation started with Sitchin, and like I said, I think he's valuable simply in the fact that he opened up the world, and it's really the established scientists that allowed it to happen. Because you got to keep in mind, if you go back 100 some years ago, there were no conversations about Atlantis because no one was arguing about it.
Nope.
Everyone assumed it was the Azores because that's exactly where Plato said it was, and there was no discussion. It was more about that Greek revival, which came out of the Greeks of. Oh, I'm not. That's a long history. I'm not going to get into that. Anyway, but what happened in the 70s when you had these various books and conversations about Atlantis coming back out, you had, particularly what would happen was there were a bunch of people who were pointing out the very various soundings around the Azores and the things that they found when they did, soil collection at the about from the bottom of the ocean and things like that. You had this kind of revival in this conversation about Atlantis again, and the scientists pushed back hard, 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 hard. No, you're a bunch of morons. Shut up, moron. It's like, well, why are you acting so violently? Because they really responded quite disrespectfully, and of course that response prompted with other things from like the footsteps of the gods and all that kind of stuff. It prompted people like, you got it, someone got in their craw, what does that mean? And of course all you're
Right.
doing is sparking interest, and that interest
Yep.
has steamrolled into where we are today. So I think it's all good.
Two ways, two ways to get somebody to not shut up about something is
Hmm.
be overly aggressive for
Right.
no good reason, or overly dismissive.
Yeah.
You do either of those, that's not how you resolve conflict or conflict thing. That's not how you do it. You do either of those, and the person is either just going to dig their heels in or they're just not going to talk to you.
Right.
One or the other.
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen.
So maybe
And
it's just a
if
big old
you
psyop.
yeah, if you really want to resolve a conflict of any kind, you have to actually, listen to the person. Even if they're saying nonsense, the best way to shut their nonsense down, their actual whatever they're saying, is to
Hmm.
find the kernel of truth that sprouted the nonsense.
Have you
Because
been
people
reading
don't just believe
Machiavelli?
things. A bit, yeah. I
Yeah.
have a long time ago.
Yeah.
People don't just believe things for no reason. There's a reason, and that reason is usually some kernel of truth somewhere that they heard or they believe or they saw or their father told them or whatever.
Hmm.
And that thing grew into other
Sure.
things. And if you can find that, then you can usually resolve the ignorance in whatever they're saying if they're being ignorant. Now, maybe they're actually being truthful. And if you act that way, all you're going to do is just drive them in
Yeah,
even
especially
further.
from their point of view. Assuming, because a lot of time when these arguments get up, is you're assuming that the other person is being malicious. Maybe they're just
Yes.
ignorant. Maybe they have information you don't have. But a lot of times it's coming from a place of actual belief, right?
Yes.
And they're not being malicious at all. They might be wrong, but they're not malicious. That's
People
what
are
they
allowed
truly
to be
believe.
wrong.
Yeah, no,
It's
people are
okay.
allowed to be wrong. That's the American ideal, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, Chester, it took me many, many years to learn that lesson, and it really only came when I decided it was exhausting trying to make them not be wrong,
Yeah,
trying
no,
to
it's
correct
okay.
people. It's just like,
I'll
listen, all
be
right,
back.
it's okay if they're wrong. It's just easier for me. There's no reciprocity in this relationship. Let's say I correct them, whatever it is, pick whatever. I figure it out for them. I get them right and get them believing the correct path. What did I get out of that? Right? As soon as I realized that human interaction is, we call it exchanges, right? We're having an exchange with a person. Well, what's the exchange? If I go in and somebody is dead set that they're correct on this thing that I know to be wrong, there's very little I'm going to gain out of it. I try. It's something only in the last, I don't know, 5 years or so that I've really taken to heart. Is reciprocity is everything. It is That's it.
Sure.
That is the only moral framework that matters. It's the only uh, like intellectual framework that matters. It's the only physical framework that matters. If you're doing things for people and getting nothing for it, you're a sucker. That includes arguments. You're arguing with
Mhm.
a person for nothing. You're just arguing to argue. It's not worth it. The elders of our culture were very wise when they told us to pick our battles. And what they mean by that is some battles are simply not worth it because you're not going to get anything out of it other than maybe a fleeting feeling of satisfaction. That's nothing. Doesn't mean anything. That doesn't solve anything. And I think one of the things that happens as you get older, one of the reasons why older people become more cantankerous is they don't care about arguing with you. Have any, not all of them. There's some who still will, but most of them I've noticed they just tell you straight, as straight as they can, and that's it. There's no point to argue. There's nothing to be won. There's nothing you can gain from the argument. There's no reciprocal exchange. So if you don't have reciprocity in your exchanges with people, then why are you having those exchanges? What are you doing? You're either taking advantage of them to make yourself feel better, or they're taking advantage of you to make themselves feel better, but nobody's actually winning anything. Nobody's actually gaining. So, I don't know. That's just become my like personal philosophy. I believe in reciprocity in all relationships at all times. The exception obviously be with children because they're children. But if you're engaging with a fully grown adult, that should be a back and forth. It shouldn't be a one-way street in just about any circumstance, unless you agreed to it. Uh, there should be something that is reciprocal here. There's no reason to have a friendly or even acquaintance level relationship, unless it's a work thing, with somebody who gives you and brings you nothing. If there's no happiness, if there's no, I don't know, anything, knowledge, wealth, something. If there's not some way they're even in the scale, right? You're putting on the scale and they're not, then you need to walk away from that person. It doesn't matter who they are, except for a child, of course. They're a child or a little kid. They get an exception because they're, a child. But by and large, any other person you have a choice to have a relationship with of any kind, even just something as simple as an online argument, it's not worth it. It's not worth it because there's just nothing to be gained for you. What do you get out of it? And there've been people around these circles who we had run-ins with certain individuals, I won't name them, who were causing trouble. And I would try to tell them, okay, let's say you win this little online internet battle you got going with them. What does that look like? What does that victory mean? What do you get out of it? And there's no real answer because they don't know. They haven't thought it through. They're just emotional or they're angry or they're hurt or whatever, and they're just doing they're in their ego, in their argument,
Sure.
and it's a problem. And one of those problems stems from, I think, in the West, we especially we've lost this idea that exchanges, even between friends, even between family to a certain degree, need to be reciprocal. If you're doing everything for somebody and they're doing nothing for you, they're providing no value to you, why are you doing it? Arguments are the same way, Chester. They're the same way. If I'm
Hmm.
arguing with somebody and I know this is leading me, I'm getting nothing out of this at the end of the day, right? It's not an important argument. It's not about something that matters in my actual life. It's just some factoid or whatever. Why am I doing that? What do I gain from that? I have nothing to gain from that, even if I convince this person that they're
Hmm.
wrong and I'm right.
Oh yeah.
Okay, good job,
Oh
me,
no.
I guess.
Yeah. No. No.
Like
Yeah.
there's nothing there. There's no benefit for me. So why do it? I believe personally, this is my own personal philosophy, that reciprocal exchanges between people is the only moral philosophy that's real. Everything else is made up woo-woo nonsense. The only thing we can actually quantify is what we find valuable. And the only way we do that is by what we're willing to trade for it. So
Sure.
if I'm going to give you my time and my knowledge and my energy and get nothing but knowing that I already had that, I don't know, what am I doing? That's why I don't bother with it anymore. I try to avoid stupid arguments as much as I can. because it's
Well,
just
that's
not worth
difficult these days. No,
Yes,
no, you're right. But it used to be,
yeah,
that in order to have an opinion, you had to educate yourself on the topic. It used to be,
correct.
right? Like we just had a conversation about chiropractic, and I didn't give an opinion because I know nothing about it, right?
Yep,
But we used to educate ourselves on a point, therefore we could be we had enough knowledge to be able to have an opinion, and then you also, at the same time, as you had mentioned, we listened to the counter argument, right?
yep.
And always be open minded in order to potentially learn. This is
That's right.
standard,
Should be.
kind of way to be, but we've lost this in the West
Yes.
anyway. And yeah,
Pride.
it's pride and
It's still the Devil's
tribalism.
Month, Pride Month. Uh, it's funny. I was talking to my wife about this earlier. I don't even consider myself a Christian anymore. I don't go to church. I don't associate with the religion. But obviously, pride is the sin. It's the big daddy in Christianity, right? It's the
Well,
considered probably the worst sin that there is, even though there's not really a scale. But you know what I mean. Like
well, I
the
would say
Lord really
murder.
doesn't like it.
Yeah, but
Yeah, but murder is usually the result of another sin, whether it's
possibly.
wrath or pride or lust or whatever. But I'm talking about like internal sins, like emotional sins, ones that are wrong. And I was thinking about this, and I told my wife this. Whether you believe in God or not doesn't matter. Every single philosophy that of merit, every religion that's lasted has said that pride is wrong, that arrogance, haughty spirit, as the Bible says, a haughty spirit goes before destruction.
You know,
Um, and I think this is a very dangerous thing. And the fact that we have these, and I understand that the context is supposedly different. Yeah, I don't think that matters necessarily here because we have all these companies and all these big megaphones, even billboards in my city talking about enjoy your pride. Exact words, enjoy your pride. And I'm like, I don't, that's bad juju.
mhm.
That's some
Well,
bad juju right
the
there. We're putting out some serious karmic vibrations. You used the word karmic justice earlier. I
yeah.
don't like that.
Well,
That don't feel right.
yeah, and I think people don't realize how invasive it's always been. And keep
Yeah,
in mind, a lot of religions, when there's particularly talk about what you were talking about, that it would not even the act of it is just a sin. The thought of it is.
that's right.
They're quite strict. But let me give you a little bit of insight of something you probably didn't understand. I had mentioned earlier watching a documentary on Machiavelli with my wife. Well, I watched it. She fell asleep. But of course, it reminded me a lot of that Warring States period in Italy, right? Which
Right.
is so important to history. I mean, think about all the stuff that came out of that period in Italy. Very
Yep.
important. The thing that a lot of people don't realize that if you were an intellectual at that time, or you had any kind of money or anything like that, it was considered a point of pride that you would be a womanizer going around and having as many
Mhm.
mistresses as possible. But what they also didn't realize amongst these elites was that it was very common practice to have young boys as well.
Yeah.
And people don't talk about those things. And if you go look at the cultures throughout history, you find a lot of that, particularly amongst the intellectual or political elite. It's always been there. It's
Mhm.
always been there. They just don't talk about it. They don't teach you that in high school, but it's there. Now, a lot of you think Italians, no way, they're super macho. Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yep.
It's weird. It's man, it's the best evidence of a devil. That's all I'll say.
Yeah.
Because it's so many cultures, so
Well,
many,
maybe it's just
the
human
actual
nature.
meaning of this word, diverse. Well, tomato, tomato, just
Yeah.
diverse cultures. Yet somehow, when you get to these upper echelons of certain forms or aspects, branches, that's what I'm looking for, of society, this is such a problem. Always.
It always
Like it's
is.
always a
Yeah. It's
problem.
always there.
And that's just weird. Like
Yeah.
there's no explanation for that. You can say human nature, okay, but why is human nature like that? What is it about these
Mhm.
particular people that have this inkling to be that type of person, that intelligentsia, that elite, whatever you want to call it?
Mhm.
Why are they attracted to that?
Mhm.
That specifically. What
Well,
is it? It's
maybe the
so
gays are
strange.
smarter than we are.
Yeah, maybe, but
Mm,
listen, there's also grosser. So I'll say it
that's
on I'll
fine.
say it in the Devil's Month.
Well, I think before we move on to today's topics, I think we should let Grimlock decide.
Uh
Are
oh.
gays smarter, Grimlock?
Uh-oh. Is he here? He might
He
not
is
be here.
here.
There he is.
No.
Okay,
I've
I
heard
like
them
that
speak.
answer.
there we
No.
go.
That's true.
There we go.
That's
We've
very astute.
it's
It's
been
the
it's
best
been
way,
declared.
Chester. The
Yeah,
best way to gauge someone's intelligence is just let them talk for a while.
it's true.
Just let them go.
Let him
They'll
go.
get you there eventually.
That's always the way to do it. But it is interesting. Anyway, let's jump in today's stuff. Hi, Grimlock.
Do it.
Welcome. We're
How
going
you
to
doing?
be getting into some interesting things today, and I'm going to start off with I don't know, a pseudo TFT, if I may. If I may. I'm not going to play the music, but I'm going to kind of do a little bit of a TFT because I don't usually get so directly into the political stuff directly. Usually, we're talking about indirectly how it affects the entertainment and media complex, right?
Yep.
But today, I thought I would give a little bit of an update so that you can know what's going on in China, because a lot of people ask me, right?
Mm.
And because I live over here and I pay attention and I can understand the language and all those things, right? And I do pay attention because living in Japan, you better damn well pay attention, right? But so I'm going to give an update on China first, if you don't guys don't mind.
Oh,
So China, China,
there it is.
yeah, Han cultures, and you see all these different areas here, right? And of course, this I don't promote this idea. I just thought it was a funny looking little picture I saw when I did a quick search. And it's got all the different areas, counties, I guess you'd call them. Of course, they would be, I guess, be provinces, I suppose, under communism.
Mm.
But CCP is about to collapse. China could break into 7 countries. Da da da. I don't know if that's going to happen. However, I just thought it was a sad little Xi Jinping. But let me give you some update on some things that are going on. As we speak right now, 10%, that's a big number,
Yep.
right? 10% of China is sitting on borders trying to get out of the country.
Sheesh.
Yep. And so far, we've seen 1% of them successfully do so. So we have over 10 million people that have fled China in the past week, just the past week. Okay. And like I said, there's another 90 billion plus trying to get out. And she has been trying to shut down the border as best he can in response to that. So the question is, why is this ridiculous exodus? Where are all those people going to go? Right? Where, what's going on? Well, there's huge problems. And I think the best way to explain it is to kind of look at the difference between Chinese communism and Russian or Soviet communism to compare it, right?
Yeah.
Because most communists kind of function a lot like the Chinese do. The Russians or the Soviets were a little bit different. When we think of the Soviets, we think of poor or poverty. We do. But one thing we don't think about with the Soviets is poor construction, right? I mean, the things they built, maybe they weren't the prettiest, because
Mm.
I would assume that would be considered vanity, and that's somehow anti against the great Father Stalin. But you can still find Soviet things, and they don't break, right?
Mm.
Even something as simple as a Soviet chair. See if you can't get one on eBay somewhere. Get a Soviet chair and try to see how much weight you can put on that thing. Just a little chair. Go see how much weight you can put on that. You'd be shocked. And I guarantee
Mm.
you, all the shit that's made today can't handle even a percent of that weight, right? So the Russians, for some real weird reason, under their communism, they actually built long-lasting, sustainable, capable things. Most communists don't, and the reason why is because communism, in its or just Marxism, maybe just to kind of make it broader, it doesn't promote ambition, right? It actually
Mhm.
promotes anti-ambition because you don't have a choice over your life. You have to do this. You can't say the wrong thing. You can't do the wrong thing, or you will be punished for it. Because people are always looking for a leg up, and if they can point to you and said, "He said this, she did that," they will. They will tattletale on you in a minute. In a place like China, this is a very, very dangerous thing. Now, a lot of people these days I've noticed on the internet have been saying that people don't understand China. They misunderstand China. America is just lying about, and the West is lying about them, trying to hold them down. They're awesome, amazing people. Now, yes, the West is constantly trying to manipulate everything through the media and propaganda. Yes, they are. They've always done
Yep.
this, right? That's
Yep.
true. But that doesn't mean the other thing is also not true, right? And in China, this is the problem you have. And this is why things have gotten to such a bad point. And also, I'll get to Mao Zedong in a minute. But one of the problems they have is she is the boss, right? Right? Right?
Hmm.
But is he
Allegedly, yeah.
though? Right? You see, in Russia, Putin's the boss, right? And even though there are plenty of places in Russia where the poverty is ridiculous, there's lots of problems. You go all across Russia and you can look at there's lots of troubles in Russia with poverty. It's not completely changed, right? But Putin has a finger on everything, though, right? And you don't want to piss off Putin. And I guarantee you, everyone concerns themselves with that thought. The same cannot be said in China. You think she is in charge, and he is certainly in charge in Beijing, which is his power base, right? And the other places he has control of, but mainly around Beijing. But the thing is, the problem with China, is every little teeny county you go to has its own little baron. And I use the word baron very specifically because they act like barons. What they
Mm.
need to do is collect a certain amount of tax money and revenue and send that to Beijing, right? And anything beyond that is what they can put in their pocket, right? So you have all these little teeny barons, thousands of them across China that are constantly trying to line their own pocket, and Beijing does shit about it. They either know about it or don't know about it, but they don't give a shit. As long as they get their money, they don't care. And this is why communism fails all the time is greed, human greed. So you have an example here. We just had the harvest come out for wheat here recently in the past month, right? And
Yep.
all across China, you have the wheat harvest going on, and it's desperately needed, right? There's a lot of people. You got to feed those people, right? But what's happening? Well, in the north, they have way too much rain. In the south, they have not enough rain. There's a drought, and the reason in the south that's going on is because some moron decided to build a big three gorge dam, and not realizing basic elementary school weather science that if you change the water surface and add a lot more of it, you get more rain. Oh. So we having flooding based upon these morons not taking that into account, and then it's causing effect deeper down the rivers and systems, whereas the water isn't moving like it is. And what happens when you have less water? Grimlock, you want to tell me what happens when there's less water surface in your area? What happens?
You're more subject to not have enough rain for harvesting
Yeah, drought. You're
and
right.
farming.
Yeah, you're right. 100%. Good on you. You're smarter than the entire frickin' CCP,
Well,
right?
N- well, I mean, I did have to skip lightly over that bar that was around my feet.
Yeah, fair, fair. But the thing is, I mean, this is obvious. Obviously, if you radically change the environment, you're going to affect your environment. Obviously, this is why in America most of our dams are actually spill-through dams, right?
right.
They don't generate as much energy, but what they don't do is disturb the river very much, right? The Hoover Dam is another example, but that the amount of planning and time put into that was monumental, right? But
Mhm.
mostly in America and places in Europe, we have these slip through type of dams, right? So they're generating electricity, but they're not disturbing the movement of the river so much, right? Therefore, not radically altering the environment. But China has these kind of problems going on. Now, you would say, okay, so what do? We have way too much water in the north. We don't have enough water in the south. Let's move it down, right? And the Chinese love big, giant projects. They always have, right? And they do. They have a project that is going from, you can't see on this map, let me bring up the other map. You have this map right here, way down here coming into this Yunnan area. from the center of the country, we can see my mouse coming down in here. They're cutting a canal because there's another river that goes up here, and it's of course a lot longer to sail around this than it is just to cut through here. The problem is this city right here that they're starting from, where it's on the edge of this river that comes out into here. That city doesn't do much production at all. In long term, this is not going to make any money at all. It's just a huge waste of billions and billions of dollars, right? Cutting this canal.
Lovely.
Because it's because what happens in China, you have all of these communist bosses that want to say, "Hey, look what I built. Look at this. I'm good. I did a good job. I did this for you." They don't care if it works or is productive or profitable. Oh no, they just want you to see they did something. Sound familiar? hmm Anyway,
Look at me.
yeah, look at me. But of course, what they could have done is cut the canal from deeper up in the river systems that are constantly flooding and bring it down into this area. And that way, you would have this whole area being able to have water supplemented during drought because it's been going on forever because they built the goddamn dam, right? But they don't do that because it isn't expedient to make them look special and important, right?
That's right.
And then with the wheat thing, we're having all this trouble. The rains are coming. They need to get the wheat out of the field because if you leave it in and it has too much water on it, it starts to sprout. Now you're saying, well, was that a bad thing? Yeah, it's a bad thing if you want to eat it, right?
Yeah.
So they have
Don't
a
eat that.
very tight frame, and in China, they do things because they've moved everyone to the East Coast and the cities. They have to use these harvesters, and they have restrictions on these harvesters. Can't be over 50 tons, right, of a load. They have a smaller size harvester than say America would have. Combines, things like that.
Yep.
And they move all over this country during this period. They back and forth. These guys make pretty good money too, not crazy money, but it's a good time for them to get in the black. But what's happening is that particularly they were coming out of the north because the rain tends to go north to south, right? So they're heading out of the north, finishing what they could do up there into the actual big farming area in the south, where most of the farming is. And what happens on these roads coming into these counties? They have truck weight stations, right? Like we have.
Yep.
But they're fining everybody, holding them up, literally sitting there for a week or two, sitting on a road, not being able to move to get in because why? They need to collect taxes. They don't care that everyone's legal. They literally put their thumb on the scale so that they're illegal. Give me my $100. Give me my $200. Right, is what they're
Yep.
doing. Petty little local barons trying to get all the money in their pocket so that they can be rich. And what happened? The entire wheat harvest of China went rotten in the field this year. The entire freaking harvest. Right? Now, what does all this mean? Well, let's go back to Mao Zedong, right? The great leader, the savior of the people from the evil king who kept us fed.
Yes, you gave us food. That
Yeah.
bastard.
What did Mao do? Every damn thing Mao did. Everything. I mean, it's almost ironic. Every
Yep.
single thing he did failed. Everything. He had zero successes. Zero, Mao Zedong. To the point that they tried to push him out and bring people in to fix it who did. And because they fixed it a little bit, it brought a little bit of money back, and Mao was able to come in. And what did he do? Murdered them all. Right?
That's right.
Now, we don't even know how many millions died because of Mao's stupidity and the stupidity of a lot of these communists. Because Russia had similar problems in the middle. They got past it, but they had troubles in the beginning as well. Because you have all these idiots who are not actual scientists trying to say, well, I think, like one of the things China did, and it was a Russian who gave him the idea, and the Russians had the same problem. Right? He was like, if you put plants too close together, they will kind of cannibalize each other, and you'll lose the entire crop, right? Because you have to have a certain amount of distance between plantings. But he's like, but, if we use the same type of plant next to each other, well, they're the same, right? Therefore, they work together, right? There's the logic. No, I'm
Yeah,
serious. I'm
lots of
not shitting you.
reason.
I'm not shitting you. That is
A lot of
exactly what
reason
they
in the
thought.
plants. They have
Yeah.
deep thought.
Yeah, the deep
Plants do.
thoughts of the plants. And what happened? Millions dead. millions dead, right? So
So stupid.
so it is stupid, dude. And every little idea they had is stupid. It's stupid over stupid. They Mao put people in and said, "We're going to produce amazing amount of steel, and we're going to build this incredible country. Yay! Put all these people on. We want 50 tons of steel." Problem: they didn't teach them how to make steel because
Oops.
no one knew. Oops. So the steel they created was of ridiculously poor quality. Still today, they
No.
have a thing over there called rat tails or tofu dregs, and it's because all these buildings and these things collapse because they're built poorly, right? And why are they built poorly? Because the Chinese steal all their technology. So I mean, they have the tech. Why can't they enforce it? Well, this is why. To give you an example, the largest carrier in the Chinese Navy. It was made super big because, I mean, look, we have a big one like America has. It's
Mm-mm.
still using the old, and I mean Soviet era, uh, uh, you know, peak launch system where the edge of the ship is actually goes up in the air and you kind of launch. Right, we don't have that in America anymore. We've gone beyond that. That's like the old Soviet design they're using. But the concrete to build the surface, the tarmac on top of the carrier, right? Certain needs to be a certain quality. Obviously, it's a moving boat, right?
That's
But
right.
what
Yep.
happened was the general in charge of that, you see, he was like, well, if I use cheaper concrete to build the surface of this amazing aircraft carrier, I can put the rest of the money in my own pocket. Right?
Yep.
Or, we need to fuel all these ships. We don't need all those ships. I'll take the diesel that I was given to use for all these ships and I'll sell half of it so I can keep the money. Right. So what's happening
Oh
now?
my.
They don't have enough people boats to be able to move around. Their ships don't function. Their giant carrier doesn't function because there's every little aspect of that boat was built with that thinking. Nothing works. It's completely broken. There's two gigantic cracks across the top of it. That ain't good, right? And of course, they say, "Oh no, it's just paint." Paint?
Mm.
Okay. But this is going on all across China all the time. These little barons, these little generals, taking what they can get for themselves and screw you. Screw you. It happens everywhere. And that's why these buildings fall down. That's why these ships can't work. That's why everything is broken. Trains fall off their damn rails into the ground. People are dead. What does the Chinese government do? Bring in excavators and bury it. Literally. They don't collect bodies. They don't say, "Oh, this is sad. Have some kind of memorial. Come together as China. Let's be humanitarians." No, no, no. They bury it. So all of you morons in the internet, they're saying China's great. Fuck you.
I think they've triggered him. He's been a triggered
It's
bugbear.
evil, dude. No one cares about the Chinese
I
people.
I
All they
I
care
felt
about is
that come
money.
from the diaphragm. That
Yeah.
Sorry, I do apologize. It irks
Well,
me.
as much as I would love for it to be true that the
apologize for what?
CCP,
Being honest.
Hmm.
yeah, don't apologize for that. It irks me that the CCP exists and probably isn't going to collapse. It would be for the betterment of all mankind. There is no
It would be
benefit
good for the
to
Chinese, that's for sure.
humanity for them to exist as a whole.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not advocating we go in there and do something about it. We should have did it when MacArthur wanted to, but I digress. Uh, Now it's a little too late, so now we just have to let nature take its course.
Mhm.
These people are going to fail. Not because, Chester, of any grand ideological, philosophical, da 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 da. Because as we were talking about, and I think this is what you kind of let in with, pride always leads to ruin.
Yeah.
And that is why you have these problems in China, a lot of pride.
It's
There's
just
no pride no
yeah.
pride in things that matter, things you're supposed to have pride in, which are not you, not yourself. You should have pride in your people. You should pride in your family, if they're worthy of it, and you should have, pride in the things that you do. And what I mean by that, the things that you do for other people. You should not have pride in things that glorify yourself, and that is obviously the big problem over in China, especially with Winnie the Pooh over there.
Yeah.
A lot of these people are all about glorifying themselves. I remember a few
Yep.
years ago, this story got buried. One of the barons, as you're calling them, had amassed an amount of gold that's obscene. Like it
Mhm.
was, I can't remember the number, but it was obscene. amounts of gold. He had just amassed it, and the CCP eventually, did something about it and went and basically took it all. But yeah, he was so corrupt that he had been effectively taxing the people so much and amassing this obscene amount of gold from wherever he could get it. It was, I wish I could remember the number, but it was a staggering amount of gold. And he had it all to himself. And he just had it because he wanted it, because he felt he, I guess, deserved it. I don't know. And was basically just ripping the people off for however long he had been in power. Um, and that's just one example. I'm sure there's others that are just as bad, if not worse, than this guy, all throughout China.
Oh yeah.
A very proud. It's a. I would say that is the, if you want to talk about, like, call it a sin, that's probably the biggest sin that the Chinese have to deal with over there, because they're a very old culture. They've been around for a long time, China, and there's a lot of pride in that, and there should be a lot of pride in that. But that's very easy to turn inward, and they do that horribly. They're a very racist country and a very racist people. Genuinely, like the actual definition of that word, they are it. But there's still a lot of good people there too, and they're the ones who are going to have to suffer from this just as much as everybody else.
Yeah.
And it's not going to get any better. Unfortunately, I talked about this, I think, last week, until they decide to make it better. The CCP might collapse under its own weight. That's possible. It could happen to any government body, whatever you want to call it, empire. But it might not either. It might last for a very long time. It's an old land, China, and the only way that it's going to be, nudged, really, the only way that it'll work is if the people there do it. Simple as that. There's no other way to sugarcoat it, to make that poison pill taste any better. The only way they're going to be free of this nonsense is if they free themselves, and they don't, seemingly anyway, want to do that. So, because I remember you said, wasn't it like last year there was a whole bunch, and I'm sure there still are, but there was a whole bunch of huge protests
Oh,
everywhere
constantly,
in China.
constantly.
But
Yeah.
weren't they like arguing for more communism? Like that's what they were
Some were
protesting for?
well. The thing is, if the communism was actually working, it wouldn't be anywhere near as bad.
That's true.
I mean,
There'd be less corruption
to be
somehow.
fair, but you have another problem going on, other than the fact that they still praise Mao, who
Yep.
literally everything he did was wrong. He had zero successes, zero. I'm not exaggerating. Go study yourself. Zero successes. Every stupid idea that guy had failed. Every one, but they still have his picture all over the place. You also have another
Wow.
problem. If you look on this map, I chose it for a reason, because it shows the domination of the Han population. And the Hans, and you can see where they spread it out through China. They're the ones who are in control. And the interesting thing, it's the violence level isn't as high as, say, Rwanda, right? As far as the racial division. In Rwanda, you had the Hutus, who were the vast majority, and they were murdering the hell out of the Tutsis and the other smaller groups, right? In China, you don't have that level of violence, but you have the same thing going on. They abuse and steal from the Mongolians here in Inner Mongolia, the Qinghai, the Yunnan, Tibet, and Xinjiang. These people are constantly being abused by Chinese. Constantly. They cheat them. They literally call them peasants, and they treat them as such. Right? This is some kind of feudal system over here with all. That's why another reason I use the word baron, because they are treating them like stupid little peasants, and they are vampires at the teat, sucking everything they can from these people. Right? It's so bad over here in Xinjiang that they're actually, the Uyghurs are literally just imprisoned slave group, literally. Right?
Right.
So, when people keep asking me about China, China is a nightmare place. A lot of the people in the West keep wanting to, because they want to push against American hegemony. I get it. Right? But China ain't your bag, dude. It ain't the thing to make your argument on. It ain't. What's going on in China is monstrous. It's horrible.
Yes.
It's truly horrible. And you can just go right across the little bit of water to a place called Taiwan, and you can see a completely different story. Now, to be fair, the threat that China produces makes the politicians in Taiwan, for the most part, have to be nationalistic because there's a threat. So there is that threat does cause there is cause and effect going on here. But in China, China Tibet, just excuse me, China Taiwan, or just Taiwan, um, you have a completely different situation. The arts are flourishing over there. A
Yep.
return to religion and Buddhism and the various other types forms of religion,
Funny how that
artistic
works.
freedom, economic freedom. It's it's such a radical comparison to look at the two. And like I said, I'm not going to say that the politicians of Taiwan are any better than anywhere else. It's just the situation with China forces them to be more nationalistic and more pro Taiwan instead of themselves because they won't hold the job, right? But it's just comparing the two is shocking, dude. Is shocking,
Yep.
right? And this picture here that I've chosen and I'm showing is an example of an area and you can always tell these areas because these are the areas where they're trying to promote Chinese living. With you can always tell because of these white lighting posts they put along the streets, and you only see them in those areas. And but in these places where places people go shopping, look at the brilliance and the wealth of China. It's one of those kind of show cities that dictators tend to have, right?
Yep.
And the only place you can see example where it actually worked well for the people is Turkmenistan. The son, because the father died, the son is not as good as the dad. But the dad, even though wacky and a lot of people say he's the worst dictator in the world, they have not done any research on Turkmenistan. Some of the happiest people on earth. So you can have the fake cities like Ashgabat in Turkmenistan, which is literally a fake city for tourists. It can work, and then you have this kind of stuff that, of course, doesn't work. But the problem with these kind of cities, these little places here, they're always built next to foreign factories, right?
Mm.
And all of them are shut down because here's the problem in China that's really starting to exasperate situation. All the corporations, whether they be foreign or domestic, are leaving or have already left. Do you realize that Foxconn left China? Did you know that?
I did not know.
Now, Foxconn, for those of you who don't know, is the company who builds pretty much all the parts for the Apple iPhone, right? It's not Apple directly, but they're the ones that construct all the parts for Apple, right? Foxconn is a major, I don't even know how many employees, 100,000 employees? It's just a ridiculous number, right? But it's gone. It's gone, right? They're all moving to Vietnam, Thailand, Indonesia, India, Mexico in some cases as well. Everything is leaving China. So these little wonderful look at the economic wealth of China areas that look like a Western city. They're very populated, a lot of people shopping, beautiful cars. They're ghost towns. They're ghost towns because all those companies have left. And what's happening? People
Right.
can't the housing market's completely collapsed. Would you like to guess how much the value the housing market value has dropped as far as what a house costs? Would you like to estimate what percentage has it dropped? Would you like to guess, Grimlock?
I can get a house in China for the price equivalent of a family-sized bag of Doritos.
Two, maybe. Yeah. No, 70%. 70%.
Wow.
70%. Now you're like, well, we want our houses to be cheaper. Sure, I get you, but that ain't good for the market, dude. A 70%
No.
drop because a lot of people buy property for investment. That investment's gone, right? But
Yep.
also you have
That's
things
sad money.
going on like this in China. For instance, here's the thing. They shut down China for 2 years. Therefore, you're not allowed to open your doors. You can't make money. Therefore, you can't pay your mortgage because you didn't pay your mortgage. Not only do they take your property, they throw you in jail and put a big fine on you because you can't pay what you're not getting. Then they take your property, they turn around and sell it for 30% of its value because they want to flip it real quick into other people's hands. But the problem is, no one's buying it, even at those low prices. So you have they estimate upwards of 60+% of all housing units in China are empty.
Yep.
This is
Ghost town.
complete economic collapse, dude. Complete
Well, it's all
collapse.
fake.
Yeah.
It's completely fake. The economy of China is even more fake than the economy of America. The only reason China has any wealth whatsoever at all of any kind is because they took it from here. They took it from my city. They took it from Detroit. They took it from
Right.
Cleveland. They took it from all the little area you call the Forge, the Rust Belt, as it's
The
called
Rust Belt
nowadays.
now, yeah. Well, the politicians
They
did that.
stripped it.
They gave
Yeah,
it
they
to them.
stripped the wealth of this area and sent it over there. They
Yeah.
didn't make that. And as always happens, and it even happens in families, over time, the money it just doesn't work anymore. You can't just keep pumping money that somebody doesn't know how to create themselves into something and expect them to be good stewards with it. And as they become what they are inclined to be, which is bad stewards, everything starts to go to crap. And it happens
Mm.
in rich families. Most rich families lose their wealth in 3 generations. That's a fact. And the reason that happens is because over time, the knowledge and the thing that made them wealthy to begin with, that discipline and that perspicacity, as Andrew Tate says, that ability to focus yourself and see where wealth is generated and attack there, that goes away. And it just goes away because they don't have the edge that their ancestor did, grandparent, whatever it was, that made the money to begin with, that built the business, that did whatever. Um, so these families end up broke, and we're seeing this play out in a nation now. The nation of China for at least 30 years, probably longer, let's be honest,
Oh, it's
has been
definitely
being
longer.
literally propped up by the wealth of the
Mhm.
Midwest of America.
Oh, yeah.
That's where it comes from. It's coming from nowhere else. Anybody who thinks it's somewhere else, no, 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 no. I'm not talking about money. The money comes from the coasts. I'm talking about the wealth. I'm talking
Manufacturing.
about
Yeah.
the actual production. That all came from here. And the reason why they started to come up, and they did for a while, they were doing okay-ish for a while, especially compared to what they were, is because that works for a while. But eventually, when you don't have competent people in charge who have earned their positions through competence and hard, diligent work and created and generated wealth, it falls apart.
It
It's the
does.
same thing that happened to the Soviet Union because we were propping them up for years. It's happening here now. We were talking about it at the beginning, remember? The sub, that whole situation. If it's exactly as they said it is, right? Which
Yeah.
probably isn't. There's probably a bunch of shenanigans. But let's say there wasn't. It's a perfect example. They fired the guy who knew what he was doing because he didn't meet their pride. He didn't stroke their ego to have what
Yeah.
they wanted.
I
It's
mean, the
all about
50-year-old white
pride.
guy who said that this thing isn't safe. Yeah, that guy. Yeah.
Got rid of him, brought in somebody who tell them what they want to hear, who hasn't earned it, literally earned it, and look what happened. Collapse. It's a perfect microcosm of what you're talking about,
Yep.
Chester. Take
It
the
is.
race out of it entirely. The person with merit was removed or never existed in China's case, or hasn't existed in a very long time in China's case. And because of that, everything collapsed.
Yeah, no,
That's what's happening in
and,
China.
and you know what forced them, really forced their hand to find a cheaper market, because Mexico has its problems, but China, they
Yep.
saw it as cheap labor and something they control, which for a long time they were right. And the reason why all that stuff that you talk about in the Midwest, the great mighty forge of America, was taken out, was the reason why was because of unions. The unions
Largely.
coming
Yeah.
in, demanding more money, demanding more of this, and who's the ones that create unions? Who are the unionists?
Well, the mob.
And Democrats, right?
Oh, yeah,
And
the mob.
the mob and the Democrats are the same ones who like, oops, it's too expensive. Let's spend and manipulate all our policy into sending everything into China, and then the Republicans like, yeah, that's money, right?
They'll
That's
take
what
that money.
happened.
Sure.
That's what happened.
Yeah, everything
Hey,
sold out.
And you're seeing the
hey,
same shit. Go ahead.
I have to defend my fellow spaghetti benders. Our economy was a lot better when the fucking mob was running things.
That's true. The real mob. At least
Well,
this,
yeah, the
this
real
part
mob.
of
We're
the
talking
world.
about the Democrats.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
now you're seeing the same thing going on, right? California is in complete collapse, right? Companies,
And it shouldn't be.
they should, of course, they shouldn't be. They're the richest part of America, but they're in the
Yep.
red every year because they're morons.
Richest province in
But
the world.
you're seeing corporations, businesses, and people flee in an ultimate amazing exodus, right? But what are they doing? They're going into places like Arizona, Texas, and what are they ultimately going to do? They're going to put in the same stupid ass policies that they put in California and ruin those places too, because that's
Yep.
how these morons work. And unfortunately, humans live too short lives to learn any damn thing. But
It's true.
China is an absolute collapse. It's not a good situation. She has already said that we need to start focusing on domestic production. Now, just so you understand what that means, he understands he's lost the export power because all the companies have left. No one, none of these, all these companies are closing because they're not getting any orders whatsoever from anyone, right? So they can't export anything, and that's what China's completely built on by those American and European bankers, right?
Yep.
He said we have to go internal, and of course, what this shows all the actual smart people in China that are paying attention is it's over. It's
Yep.
done. Because
Gravy train
if we
left
turn
the station.
internal and become xenophobic, which is what everyone fears, China will collapse and turn into this absolute shithole. And then what's going to happen? The UN's going to send their peacekeepers in to try to
Yep.
solve something, and it's just going to be more straight up theft and robbery. Because every time the UN peacekeepers go somewhere, all they're doing is stealing shit.
Well, they're keeping a piece, all right. Listen, they just spelled it wrong. They're keeping a piece. They're going in there and keeping it. They're gonna take that piece and
Yep,
this piece
they just
and
spelt
this
it wrong.
piece.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just spelled it wrong. That's all.
Outrageous shit, dude. And what did the Belgians say the other day? We need to send UN peacekeepers into Ukraine to
Uh
stabilize
huh.
things. We need to go into
Right.
Crimea. And what did
Hey.
Putin literally just chuckled.
Yeah. Yeah.
He didn't even
Okay.
respond. He just chuckled.
Belgians first.
Yeah,
All
Belgians
Belgians
first.
first.
Yeah, yeah.
You go first. Have fun. Good luck.
Now,
Good
before
luck
I
fighting
move
the
into
bear.
the entertainment stuff, I do want to ask a question. We had a little bit of a show here for a day regarding Prigozhin, the leader of Wagner. And of
Mhm.
course, the internet just lit up. Oh, there's a coup. Putin will be done and dead in a day. Right.
Yeah.
All this stupid nonsense, and no one's even paying attention. And I'm kind of curious. I'm still on the fence. Was that a psyop or was that vanity? Because Prigozhin is an actual restaurateur who decided to start a mercenary group and became very and because Putin went to his restaurant in Moscow all the time, he probably became buddies with him, and maybe
Yep.
who knows, it could have even been Putin's idea. And of course, the Russian government uses the mercenary group. Wagner, like we have Black. What is it called in America? Black something.
Black. Not Black Rock. Why is
No,
everything black something? That's
yeah,
weird.
well, yeah,
Uh.
but
Oh,
whatever.
come on.
You know what I mean.
Yeah.
The American Mercenary Group serves the same purpose because
Well,
the
they
Rush.
closed that one down,
Well, yeah, but they got
unfortunately.
others. But I'm just saying that because the Russian Constitution does not allow them to be in foreign lands without an actual, congressional vote, right? Which
Yep.
America technically has the same rule, but we have not been paying
Chester,
attention to that
the
for a long time.
Chester,
Yep.
the word you were looking for was Blackwater. That's the name of the
Blackwater.
American
Blackwater.
Thank you.
government.
Thank you,
You
Blackwater.
got it.
There you go. But anyway, so this and Russia has used Wagner quite successfully in many theaters. They have. But the problem they were coming up with is a couple of problems, and I'm curious when I laid all this out, you guys tell me what you think, because they had a couple of problems. Now that the Donbass, Lugansk, all those areas are now voted to become part of Russia, which wasn't the initial plan, but it turned out to be what has happened. Now Wagner technically is illegal. They can't be on Russian territory. They're a mercenary group, right?
Right.
And of course, keep in mind they're based out of Belarus, not Russia, right? And so it created a little bit of a constitutional, snafu, right? And they were trying to decide what they wanted to do, how they could work this out with Wagner. And the idea was, well, probably the easiest thing is to do is just, dismantle Wagner and just commission everyone into the military. That was kind of the decision. And this pissed off Prigozhin and created his little tantrum that lasted for no time. No one died. Nothing bad happened. It was just maybe embarrassing news. The reason I ask if it's a psyop is because of this. Prigozhin, you guys probably don't know because the West would never show this to you. You have to go look for it. You got to go like to Telegram or Wagner. Thank you very much, Jimmy. You're perfect German. But anyway, you have to go look for it. But actually, Prigozhin has had many rants, many rants. But the thing is, every time he rants, it turns out to be not actually true. Like a big one he had where he's just going off. He looked so pissed that we don't have enough ammunition. That the Russian government is not sending enough enough ammunition. The problem is the Wagner Group had just captured a huge Ukrainian, excuse me, I misspoke, American weapon cache, and had more than enough ammunition, but yet he's making noise. And he did this kind of thing many times. And at the same time, Russia is doing their same kind of cauldron type of tactic they've been using since the Crimean War, which is centuries ago, by the way,
Yep.
where they retreat, you follow them, and then they murderlate you because you just walked into a murder box. This is Russian tactic 101, right? And they've been doing it forever. And why wouldn't they? Because it keeps working, right? But nevertheless, they've been doing this all along. So it's all about illusion and sleight of hand with Russian combat tactics, right? And I'm just curious, was that an actual attempt at a psyop, or was that I would say a failed psyop, or was it just vanity? I mean, was it just Prigozhin making a play to say, "Hey, Putin, make me the military boss of Russia"? Because Putin was never a threat in this situation. I understand that. I'm
No,
just, which was it? You think?
I don't know. It's a good question. Well, it's funny because, like you said, Putin was never actually a threat because
No.
for some reason, and I know what the reason is, but they have this. They've created this caricature of what Putin is, if he's as if he is Xi Jinping, and he's just simply not. He's a politician. Now he's done many things that I disagree with, but other than that, he's not some totalitarian dictator.
Mm.
Even if you take him out, the war's not over.
Oh, it'd be worse. It'd be
It'd be
worse.
way worse. They'd be like, "All right, we're sending everything in now. Now you uncorked the fucking bottle. Now here we come." Uh, it's just nonsensical. The idea that you have a coup and now it all stops. No, it doesn't all stop, guys. It's not how Russia works. It's not an absolute monarchy or some nonsense where Putin
No.
just raises his finger and things happen because he said so. That's not how it works there.
No.
And I would say it's probably a little bit of all of the above. Whether the guy was doing it for Putin's affection
Because they're
or
buddies,
not,
right? They're friends.
yeah, he was doing it for attention at the very least, right? So I would say it's a little bit all of the above. The psyop is the West over here pretending it was something more than it was
Oh, they're so
because
desperate. It was funny. It
they're
was like
so
comedy.
desperate.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you'll have people who buy it hook, line, and sinker. Yeah, see, they almost got him. Look, it was Operation Valkyrie over there. Like, calm down. Relax.
Yeah.
All right? They didn't almost get him. They didn't blow up a bomb at a secret meeting place like they did Hitler that almost killed him. That's not what happened, guys. Calm down.
Yeah. And they said that other general had to come in and make the deal, but yeah, no. Putin told him to do that. Because
Yeah, I think so.
for Putin to make the deal makes him look weak, and he ain't gonna do that, right? But yeah, I don't know. It doesn't matter. It's a nothing burger. It changed nothing in Ukraine whatsoever. And maybe I wonder because I think they were. I felt that if it was a psyop, they're trying to get the Ukrainians to bite and say, "Oh, we got them charged, guys," and dead. But that's
Right.
already happening. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Let me get back to doing my job. It's just a side thought. Anyway, side note. Let's move on.
Let's move on. Gotham Knights dev who called for ban of 6 days in Fallujah over fears of anti-Iraqi violence declares death of Ocean Gate submarine passengers are a cause for celebration, and that is a quote. Well, that's a terrible thing to say, my friend.
It is. Now, of course, it's just showing a double standard as usual. That's nothing surprising. But I am curious what you guys think because there was so many people like, yeah, dead rich people, yay. It's like, what? I mean, this
Well,
this this moron CEO, all right, well, he brought it on himself, but the other four people didn't. They're just
Yeah.
people on an adventure and they're dead, dude. Why are
well,
you so excited about dead people?
I think part of the news reports I was seeing is the one millionaire. His the kid didn't even want to go. He was just doing it because his father wanted him to.
And maybe,
yep.
maybe. I've certainly made my kids do things they don't want to do.
At the
Well,
bottom of the ocean? Damn.
No,
I,
no,
You are
but
Krusty. You are Mr. Krabs, aren't you?
yes, I am.
I'll put it like this. I thought about it. I've seen plenty of memes about it, but this is one of the most ironic things I think I've seen in a while, where the Titanic is one of the great examples of human hubris
Yeah.
in modern times,
Mhm.
Pride. Yep.
and this whole Ocean Gate thing was also the result of hubris at an astounding level. The way this thing ended was so ironic that as if at the time that submarine exploded, the only thing that would have made it even more what the fuck is if Rod Serling had rose up from the water and said, "What you have just witnessed here is a case of human hubris."
Yeah, right. No,
It's
seriously, seriously, it's true. It's true.
like
Yeah, but I mean, but look at this
Oh.
right here. Look at this. Look at this thing. People asking, why do people hate billionaires? A lot during the submersible discussion, and here's the core of it for me. Okay, you tell me, Daniel Shipwreck, and I wonder if you just made that name. Every day, the mega rich could vastly reduce or even end mass suffering on a global scale with little cost to themselves. Every day they choose not to. Now, this delusion has been going on for a very long time. You idiots don't understand what $1 billion actually is. You don't.
Yeah.
And you don't understand the troubles we faced. There is no vast reduction of anything. If you take all of the billionaires' money in America, all of it, just seize 100% of their assets, you don't even pay down the interest of the debt. You moron. What kind of mass suffering? And you're talking, and you moron, I'd love to see your Twitter line, because how many billions of dollars are we sending into fucking Ukraine? And you're going to sit there and say this shit?
Yeah, my opinion, Chester, when it comes to like that whole argument, I don't understand why people have it for the main reason of, say, like me. I found that if I work 55 hours a week, I make more money than if I work 60 because of how hard they tax me. So it incentivizes you, like, okay,
Mhm.
I'm not going to work as hard because if they're going to take all my money anyways, then why am I going to work harder? So if you take
Socialism
the
at
money
work.
from the billion, if you take the money from the billionaires, I mean, you know what? I may not agree with everything, say Zuckerberg, Musk, and all those guys do, but at the end of the day, you know what they did? Yeah, they may have started off richer than you or I, but they took a little and made it massive.
Yeah.
If I was in their position, I would hate, like, okay, I worked hard my whole life to make this business what it is. For somebody who's to be like, oh yeah, let's take all of your shit because I want it.
Yeah, but of
well,
course, and that's
it,
socialism, communism.
it,
But the problem is, even if you take it all, Tower, it doesn't do anything. We
I
throw
know
away
this.
more money than all of them have.
it's one of these great myths. It's people who have been taught to, one, demonize work, demonize people that have more than you for whatever reason that they have it. Because it's really stupid. Because if you have a family, like, for example, you'd want your family to be in a better position than you was ideally. You wouldn't want them to have to do what you had to do to get whatever it is that you got. But these people have been taught, and they really fucking believe this. No, $1 billion would solve nothing. If let's just say out of the kindness of this guy's heart, he gave a fucking $1 billion to quote unquote help the poor. Most of the people who are poor are terrible fucking decision makers. They're
Yeah.
fucking idiots.
But the
That's
thing
one
is,
of the reasons why they're
these
poor. And guess what? You gave them money within a month. And I'm being generous with a month. It might even be a week for some of them. And within 30 days, they would be in the exact spot
Yeah.
that
Yep.
you initially
No,
met
that's
them.
true. But
Because
Those
they're
rich
fucking
people would have the
idiots.
money again. The
right,
rich
but
people would just get
Yes.
the money again.
that's true. But just keep in mind, these billionaires do give a lot of money to charity because
Yeah.
it's a tax deduction.
Yeah,
True.
Yeah.
but
Now,
even still, it's again, it's the somebody has something. I've talked about this before. That narcissism. Somebody has something I believe I deserve, because that's what that comes down to.
See,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't think people
he's mega
understand
rich. Why ain't I
exponential.
mega rich?
See, a lot of people don't understand the idea, Grimlock, of exponential growth. It's like, say, with my job, everyone's like, "Oh man, why can't the company just give us $1,000 bonus? It's not a big deal." On a personal level, $1,000, like, oh, that's not that bad. And then you realize there's 400 of us. That's $400,000. That's a lot of money. Thousands not, 400,000
Yeah.
is. People don't
Well,
realize the exponentialism of everything.
Well, that's true too. I will say it also depends on the company, because I've worked for certain companies that could more
I
than
can
afford
afford
that.
it. Oh yes,
And would give you every reason under the sun why you shouldn't get it. Trust me, I just left one.
Oh, actually, Chester, you're gonna get a really good kick out of this, because one of my coworkers just had this actually happen to him with what he just said. This guy worked for a construction company. The company was providing them leather gloves. Well, they decided to hire civil engineers to determine how long those gloves are good for. They found that the leather gloves are good for, I think, what do you say? They're good for 6 months, but they did it based on 8-hour shifts when everyone was working mandatory 12s. So the company is like, "Oh, we're just not going to give you guys gloves anymore because they're good for 6 months." And they're like, "No, it works like 6 weeks when you have us doing straight 12s." Like, how much do you pay these engineers? $19,000. It's like, you think $19,000? How long is it going to take you to recoup that cost for the gloves?
Yeah, because it's bean counters, dude, sitting in an office looking at numbers, and they have no idea what the practical application is. They never do.
Exactly.
This is a huge problem. But it gets worse though. Daniel Shipwreck here, MX, whatever that means, he's got a stupid take. But look at this genius that hold my beer. Okay.
I'll read this one. Billionaires are a cancer. Their existence is an act of extreme violence. Their deaths are a cause of celebration.
Wow.
Their existence is an act of extreme violence. That sounds like it comes right out of Mein Kampf. To be honest with you, that sounds something like something Hitler would say.
Yeah.
Holy
Well,
cow.
I would say, considering that the billionaire and his son was, if I'm not mistaken, Pakistani, that sounds awfully racist and little bit
Asuma.
Islamophobic, if you ask me.
Well, Asama got a little bit of pushback on this comment, and Asama came back with the classic liberal response. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, folks. I'm not a good place right now, and not myself. Going offline for a bit. Yeah,
it's still about him.
Yeah, you're not in a good place. I know a good place. It's the nearest tree and a rope.
Yeah.
It's a one-way trip.
So
here's my take on the billionaires as an idea as a whole. There's good, like, just like with everything, there's good and there's bad.
Yeah.
I think Elon Musk is probably a good one for the most part. I think he's done some things that I disagree with, obviously, but I do think he is stalwart and true when he says he wants to benefit mankind.
He's the king of the autist. Yeah, I believe that too. But of course, billionaires are not the issue. There are bigger issues. But I figure, Asama here, a genius. I should go check out his Twitter. Let's go check his Twitter out. Let's see.
Oh no.
Yeah, these are protected
of course.
tweets.
He lives in Montreal. What a surprise.
Right. So what do we got
Canadian.
here? Lead content designer at Blizzard Entertainment.
Oh no.
That's interesting. One of the Habibis. They want some good Arab tea. They're Arabs. Oh, I wouldn't have guessed by your name at all, Professor College Dawson. Well, I didn't. Well, that you, Mr. Professor. Welcome, advisor. Okay, that's
Oh
nice.
God.
TEDx speaker. Cap enthusiast, indeed, indeed. The enthusiasts don't wear their caps straight though. That's good to know. And this heart thing, oh, I swear to God, I'd murder the world. Um, Hug Elemental. Is that his pronoun? I
Oh,
think it is.
oh
Yeah.
no.
Anyway, this
I thought his
genius.
pronouns
Yeah.
was insufferable faggot.
Yes, that as well. But I'm just saying that these are the kind of idiots that one are against, this kind of stuff because it's violence, poor Iraqis, we killed Iraqis, and I agree, yeah, we shouldn't have been there. I agree,
It,
right? But this he wants to ban and protest, but rich people, fuck them. All right,
fuck 'em.
fuck them.
It's
All right.
just my point I was going to make is it's just very stupid, ignorant, surface level midwit, like most liberals, midwit
Mhm.
thinking. Um, it to say things like like millionaires shouldn't exist, their their existence is an extreme act of violence, is so utterly dumb that to try to rebut it would make you dumber. You're
Yeah, no,
losing in
yeah,
that
yeah,
exchange.
that's true.
Even if you win, you're losing because
Hmm.
that's so stupid. It's so stupid to put all just because these people have a lot of money, you're going to say they're all of them without exception are bad, evil and wicked and must be purged from humanity and their
Yes.
names carved out of history, never to be remembered. That's what these people. That's how they behave,
It's probably true.
and
Yeah,
that is utterly preposterous.
yeah.
There are plenty of billionaires who are actually decent folks who are trying to do good in the world, who aren't evil, and there's plenty who are evil and absolutely need
Or
the
just
gallows.
people, maybe.
But
You know,
exactly,
you
that's
know,
my point. When
who
you have
cares?
this black and white situation where billionaire bad, non-billionaire good. It's funny how all of them, when they become millionaires, suddenly millionaires are fine. You notice that.
You're
But
right.
but
Yeah,
regardless, um, when you have that black and white zealotry, it's very, 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 very stupid.
it
It's
is.
just
Well,
dumb.
and besides, you're right. They're millionaires are fine because they are now. But
Yes.
why soft pedal it there, Asma? Why go after the billionaires? Screw that. Go after the trillionaires.
Yeah, why not? Let's get them
Now,
Rothschilds in
let's
there.
go get
Get
those
them up.
Rothschilds. Now that
Oh,
right
we
there
can't
could
talk
do
about
some
them
good.
though.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
anti-Semitic
you do
talking about them.
realize that you could estimate their wealth at probably at a quadrillion dollars.
Yeah,
You ever heard
that's
that
about
number
right.
before?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, they own basically Europe, pretty much. They just own it.
Quadrillionaires. Let's
They
if
just
you want to
own
do
that.
some good, Asama. I mean,
Yeah. There's a whole family of them. You gotta go have fun for a while.
good
Watch them.
luck
They're all
though,
over.
Asama, because they're the ones that pay your bills. Yeah,
Yeah.
Uh,
They
kind of
own
a bit of
everything.
a problem there, Asama.
Uh,
Yeah.
but it's just it's so because for the most part, a lot of the arguments, like you guys were talking about, a lot of the stuff where Grimlock was saying, some of these companies are absolute scumbags. There's no doubt, and some of these billionaires are absolute scumbags. But it makes it so much harder to talk about solutions to that problem when it's just kill them all, right? No, or, no, let's celebrate when random people die. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, it's
Now,
so disgusting. It's like, what are you doing, dude?
some
Yeah,
people deserve that for sure, but not just because he had money. They did things with that money that made him earn that level of vitriol, like a George Soros, for instance. I'm gonna love when he kicks, or people like that, or like a non-billionaire but another terrible person like a John McCain. People like that, when they
yeah.
get got, awesome. You should be happy because they were an evil force on the world. As far as I know, this guy never did anything except be successful. That's
yeah,
all he did.
and good
He
for
he,
him.
he was successful. Yeah.
Yeah, he's successful. But I'm almost surprised that it isn't his name isn't Asama Pasha. No,
Could
that
be.
was too deep,
Maybe
huh? Damn
that
it.
was a deep cut. Yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe I mean Dorius might be a fake. It could very well be a fake. They
could be.
do that a lot.
Well, I mean Pasha or the Otto because he's an Asama, an Ottoman, right? And he says he's an Iraqi, but and Pasha is the kind of governor. It means governor, right? So, sorry, when you have to explain your joke, it's not a good joke.
Not a good joke when you have to tell me. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's true.
Anyway,
What?
let's move on because we have more idiocy to get to. But it was disgusting to see the amount of people who were happy that others were dead, and it was like, wow, dude, wow. I mean, really, wow. What kind of person are you? Think about it. I mean, maybe you need a
They
little
don't.
bit of self-reflection, just a little bit.
They don't think about that.
Yeah,
They're certain they're correct. Certain.
yeah.
Couldn't be wrong.
Well,
Everything around them tells them they're correct.
speaking of that,
Rosario Dawson claims people like Ahsoka Tano, Hera Syndulla, and Sabine Wren, wait, what? Because they had been so what? They had been so prominent female representation in a space that we don't get to really see women like that. Oh, Rosario,
wow.
stop talking, please.
Well,
Just wow,
well,
that's that whole
well.
ooh,
Now
that's
let's
not how English works.
no,
That's
but
not how it.
let's take a step back for a minute. Now, Rosario got herself in trouble, right? Because she said, well,
Yeah.
that didn't, to some things, she said, that doesn't make sense. How dare you step out of line? And this is her apology. I think she's just doing what they told her to say because we know she's not that dumb, but she wants to keep her job. Now, of
Yep.
course, we've had this argument before. You've seen the trailer for Ahsoka. It's girl power 100%, and of course, this is just confirming it.
It's not
Kathleen Kennedy
Ahsoka
and her
at
thing.
all. Not like
Well, it's
that.
not. It's going to fail. And everything
Yeah.
they're coming out was going to fail because it's girl power constantly. They will not back off of it. However, this is very interesting when you're speaking about Star Wars because like I said, we've talked about this before. We know right well this is bullshit because in just Star Wars itself, not looking at the rest of fantasy and sci-fi, there are many prominent females represented. Many. So what are you talking about? And I know these are not her words. What are you talking about in this space? What space? Science fiction? There
Yeah,
are
that's the
loads of
worst example.
females, right? Fantasy?
There's
There's tons of them. Disney for decades has made movies about them. They're called princesses on adventures, saving the world or something.
or somebody or something. Yeah. No, it's the. I mean, talk about a terrible example to pick, right? Obviously, like you said, it's PRBS, but
It is.
it's just so. It's just such a. It's a non sequitur. It's not. It's a complete non-starter. It's not true. It's so baldly on its face not true that Chester, most fantasy writers in America today are women.
Yeah, we got a lot of good ones. One of my favorite one is the lady who wrote the Pern sagas and Margaret Weiss, of course, which I don't. She did Dragonlance. I don't think she did the Dragons of Pern, did she? I don't think so.
Chester, my friend, the most prominent author probably of our entire life. I don't even say probably. Yeah, is a woman.
Oh, the Harry Potter lady. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, fantasy. What are we talking about here, people? Like, what are we talking? We need to see women. Where? What does that mean? Because I've been seeing them since forever. No,
Yeah.
what we're not allowed to see anymore for some reason is pretty women. They all got to be ugly
No,
as a
that's
boot
true.
and have no body, be built like 14-year-old boys with no boobs, no butt, nothing. Not out of any kind of eye candy whatsoever. You
Oh,
get this androgynous creature that has no sexuality present in its appearance at all, and if it does, they hide it.
And McCaffrey.
You're
by the way.
erasing women.
Yeah.
You're erasing actual women because listen, I'm married to a woman who actually has a figure and a body. They exist. I'm sorry that you're ugly and God didn't love you, I guess, and he gave you a hideous, physical appearance. I don't know. I don't know what you're
Well.
mad about, but you're not
Well.
mad at me. You're mad at the mirror, and you're
Mhm.
taking away from us beautiful things, beautiful imagery to look at in the form of the female body,
Mhm.
and giving us these. I don't even want to say 14-year-old boys, more
He's-
like 13-year-old boys.
He's triggered by
Like-
fable.
Oh, it's so ridiculous at
It's
this
so
point,
bad.
and it's so
Yeah.
obvious that they're doing it intentionally.
Yeah.
They're intentionally
Why is,
making these characters ugly.
Why is the Little Mermaid's eyes so far apart?
Because she looks like a fish.
And she's not even that good of a singer. She can sing, absolutely, but she's not that good that it had to be her. It couldn't
Oh
be
well,
anybody else.
it's Broadway quality though. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
she's
not
good.
like say a
I'm not
Mariah
taking that
Carey
away
or
from her.
something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean,
They could have done better.
well, I mean, I don't think that was the issue. But the thing with this, and Anne McCaffrey, by the way, was the Pern, one of my favorite series. I love that Dragon Riders of Pern.
Yeah.
But Of course, we know that she doesn't think this. She got herself in trouble, and she's just trying to dig herself out by doing what they told her to do. We know this is going to be a big, major flop because this is coming. Ahsoka is a creation of the little fairy boy there. What's his name?
Filoni.
Filoni, with his
Yeah.
Clone Wars and then into the Rebels, which people love, and he did a good job with those things. And this is one of his creations, which I like. I think it is a good creation, Ahsoka. But if we
Yeah, she's
remember
good.
Rebels, sure, there was a bunch of people on that crew, but it wasn't just because of the ladies.
Right.
They were a team,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So, but whatever. We know this isn't her words because we've heard her speak out against it. But this is another train wreck, waste of money. Because who's going to watch this girl power all the time? Supergirl, oh my God, girl power. No one's going to watch it.
Well, the sad thing is they have fucked up Star Wars to the point where at one point people wanted to see Ahsoka, but now most
Sure.
people, like such as myself, I don't give a fuck.
I
I'm
don't
not,
even-
and I'm not, and I like Rosario Dawson.
Yeah.
And at one time I was interested in Ahsoka, but I don't give a fuck now.
It's too bad.
And here's the fucked up thing: the show could actually be really good. I'm
Yeah.
not gonna fucking know because I don't
Yeah,
give a
won't.
fuck. I
Not
am
like
not.
Andor. Yeah.
I'm not gonna waste a single moment of my time even pirating this shit.
No, I
So-
won't either. Yeah, that's true.
They've made it very clear they don't want us. Okay, fine.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Hey,
it
look,
is a
hey-
shame, Grimlock, because as an older Ahsoka, I think she's a great choice.
She's a
Yeah.
yeah, I agree. Fantastic choice.
And Rosario's usually good in what she does. There's not often I've seen her in anything where I'm like, that wasn't good. She's usually good. I usually enjoy her work, but again, I don't know where she is in her career where she still has to play these games with people, because I'm like, honey, you've been in enough successful stuff, and I'm assuming you've saved up enough money where you
Well,
don't need to deal with this
Assumption
bullshit.
makes an ass out
But-
of you and me.
Well,
True.
I'm saying I'm hoping, because I don't follow celebrities like that, but I usually I don't hear too much about I could be wrong. I don't think she's the kind of girl who spends her weekends blowing $500 on cocaine like Rick James did back in the day. So I would assume, and like I said, could be making an ass of myself saying she's well off enough financially, and she's done it, and she's been successful enough where she doesn't have to do and say shit like this, because she knows it's bullshit. She's been around long enough to know that it's bullshit, and all that does nowadays is turn off the fan.
Sorry.
It just she knows by now. She's not dumb. She knows that kind of shit. Those kind of statements will make whatever people who had interest in it even less interested in it.
The king of Jerry curls, Rick James.
Yes, and the king of cocaine for a good few years.
Yeah, I know, I'm
no,
sure.
they even convinced her to chop her hair off into a boy. She looks like a man now. They got her to get a man haircut. I
Well,
just looked up a recent picture.
They put a lot of pressure on her. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh,
But-
sweetie, it's not worth your soul.
No,
It's not worth it.
But whatever. I just it's such a ridiculous statement because it's not true. But the you've got me on a tangent. Damn it, Grimlock. I remember the 70s and the 80s. And I remember people that would turn their head to answer like, "Hey, Bob," or "Hey, Leroy," or whatever it might be. They turn their head, and you literally get splattered across the face with a Jerry curl. What did they call that shit? That oil? It's just dripping liquid, dude.
Yeah.
What did they call it? No, it wasn't condition. What was the activator? What was the word?
Activator. Yep.
Activator.
was
Yeah,
activator.
they turn their head. You get a shower because it's just dripping in it. Jerry curl, man.
I love it.
Jeez.
What one of my favorite bits about Jerry Curls is Robin Harris, when he said he was messing with somebody in the audience. He said, "I ain't gonna pick on you too much because my wife got a Jerry curl, and her Jerry curl saved the motor in my car."
Yeah. Now the
So
young
we were
ones
driving
don't
to
know
San
Jerry
Diego, and the
curl.
oil light came on.
Yeah, they don't know the Jerry curl
The
these days,
most
huh?
exposure I had to it was Eddie Murphy movies because he was always making fun of it. He
Well,
always is making
dude,
fun of it.
it's a bit disgusting,
Um,
because you're literally dripping oil all over yourself.
wait, wait.
It's
Do you remember? Do you remember the What was it? It was Great Moments of Black History from In Living Color, and they did the origin of the Jerry curl, and it was a mechanic who was doing the oil change, and the oil
yeah,
got this.
yeah. It's so bad. The youngins don't know what we're talking about though. But it's kind of like these days they don't do it. They go and spend a lot of money actually to get it done. But the old dreadlocks, right? The way you
Oh
did
yeah,
dreadlocks was simply don't wash or comb your hair. That's how
yeah.
that's how dreadlocks were created in the old days. These days they have some method of doing it. But that was pretty disgusting as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It depends. It depends on how you upkeep it, because I got them, and
Yeah, but I
my
mean, these days you
my
can go get
dad,
it
the way my
actually
dad
done. You
used to
don't
do.
need to do it that way
Yeah,
anymore.
Right.
my dad. I don't know how the hell he always got them shits right. He could just twist his hair, and in a month they would all be like the same perfect fucking size. He didn't go to the shop or nothing. He would just be sitting in his room twisting them.
Yeah. It is interesting how that became a thing amongst the black culture because it's traditionally not so. I mean, the most prevalent use of dreadlocks throughout history are really with the Celtic people, right? But
Yeah.
for some reason, I guess particularly the Jamaicans, I suppose they found the marijuana and that had some play in it, I suppose. But shit, they made a religion out of
Oh,
it, dude.
right away, blaming the ganja. Right
Well, they,
away with it. Yeah.
I don't know what to tell you, dude. That was another great moment in Black history, says Jimmy. But I don't know how I should go study because I don't know. I have no clue how that came to be. But I know traditionally that's certainly not. If you go look at through, it's particularly in actual Africa, they don't have that tradition. Matter of fact, for the most part, hair the Africans are sans hair. They tend to shave it
Very,
off
yeah,
because of the environment.
very short to no hair.
Or none, yeah, because it's just the environment. It's so humid and so insect infested that it's dangerous.
I
It's
could
the same.
imagine.
Yeah. Well, it's the same reason why when you're in the military, you should cut your hair short, so because of lice and things like that. I don't think we have those issues anymore, but we used to do that for a particular reason. But I should go study the history of the dreadlocks in regards to the black people, because I know the history in regards to the Celtic people, but I don't know the other side of it. But they've certainly claimed it. You're not allowed to even talk about it anymore. I'm going to be banned just for mentioning it.
Yeah. You're
Yeah,
evil white
yeah.
supremacist now for telling.
All,
Wait, checks notes. A fact.
yeah,
Yeah.
fact.
That's all.
Yeah,
That,
Jamaicans.
that,
And I think
that's all right, because you know what? I'm waiting. I'm waiting for some Russians to start rocking dreads, because nobody's gonna tell the Russians.
You don't
no,
mess with
that's
the
true. You
bear.
ain't gonna tell
Leave
them
the bear
shit.
alone.
Yeah, but
Yeah, leave Olga alone. She can fight. She punches trees all day.
dude, I want to see the Jerry curl come back. I want to see more Jerry
Oh
curls.
no,
I
nobody
went.
needs that.
Yeah, no, we
The
do. We
couches of the
do.
world do
We
not
do.
need that, Chester.
We do.
You know what's gonna bring it back, because it just seems like something they would do. Watch if the Japanese aren't the ones who bring back the fucking Jerry curl.
They do have a weird fascination in certain cultures in Japan with Black American culture specifically. I've noticed.
They're the
Very odd.
only
You
Asians that
guys,
do so. Yeah, the other Asians don't really care for the blacks much. And then once
what
again, I
what
don't understand why. They have no experience
what?
with it.
I could just imagine Chester one day going into fucking Tokyo and just seeing a bunch of Japanese dudes wearing old Michael Jackson like red leather jackets,
He.
fucking Jerry curl, smoking fucking cigarettes.
Dancing horribly. Yeah.
Chester, I've always wondered how it would be if I went to Japan with like my cowboy hats and my Stetson hat. My Stetson hat, cowboy boots with the big old half-pound silver belt buckle.
No one would care.
Yep.
Awesome.
Now you got to understand one of the interesting things about Japanese culture is the Japanese are not cool. Yeah.
No.
Now they have their own concept of cool, and the kakui would be the word they use, but it doesn't translate directly, right? For us, cool means calm and collected, right? Or looks fashionable and therefore cool and collected. But in Japan, kakui actually means someone who is willing to put the effort forward. It's very different, right?
Mhm.
But they're not cool. Now if you break it down and look at them, they do have their own little they would consider cool culture. But from our point of view, it's not cool at all. And the good thing about that is you could dress and wear whatever you want. No one's really going to give a shit. You can wear
Mm.
fanny packs over here, and no one. The Japanese don't think to judge those things, right? They don't. It doesn't come into their head. So you wearing a Stetson and cowboy boots and a buckle, they would say, "Oh, American," and that's it. That's it.
Interesting.
Yeah, you wouldn't get anything beyond that. Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, the mullet never left us, Jiminy. It never left us.
It will
It
never
has
leave you,
stayed
Chester.
with us.
It will never forsake you. The mullet.
Mhm.
That's true.
Business in
not.
the front, party in the back, baby.
It's functional,
It
right?
was.
It's
Yeah.
highly functional.
Well, I don't know if anyone here is old enough to remember the time where the mullet went from mullet to rat tail.
Oh yeah. Not only do I remember it, Chester, I had one.
Oh
when I
God,
was a little
no.
boy.
There we go. The
My
rat
uncle had
tail.
one for years. He
Yeah.
refused to get rid of it.
Round and round. Anyway, let's
The
move
old
on.
rat tail.
That's fun. We talk about hairstyles and stuff like that. Ninjas are cool. Samurais are cool. Karate and jujitsu are cool. Anime is cool. You, from your point of view, Japanese wouldn't look at it like that, though. They just don't have that culture. They just don't. Yeah. Japan is very cool. Well, it's actually ridiculously humid, and you would hate it. Anyway, let's
I'd be
move
used
on.
to it. Be right at home.
Yeah, well, you can use anything. This is interesting.
New rumor claims to reveal main villains for James Gunn's Superman Legacy film.
Anyone want to guess? Go ahead and guess. Who are the main villains? Notice the plural.
Villains, plural.
Yeah,
Isn't
notice
the
it.
Authority?
Yeah, it's the
What?
Authority, and it's like, how, why, when, and this rumor's been around for a while, but we do have a bit of a confirmation from Grace Randolph, which I know, but Grace Randolph is an actual insider. She's an actual
Yeah.
insider, right? She is a shill.
Sadly.
But then again, we know the information we get out of those shills in this regard tend to be true, and the rumor's been going around anyway for a while, and it looks like particularly we're going to be getting, of course, Grace doesn't like it, interestingly enough, but we're going to be getting not all of the Authority. We're going to be basically getting Jack Hawksmoor, the Doctor, and Angela Spica. Is what we're going to be getting. But the Authority in general, I guess they're going to save Midnight or an Atlas for their all-gay parade. I'm assuming. But my question is this: why? Someone?
That's a good question.
They're good guys, not bad guys.
Chester, it's James Gunn. That's why. And he's a hack. I've been telling you this, but you have refused to accept it because he made a couple good movies. That doesn't mean he's not a hack. It just means he's good at one thing. To be a hack, you can be good at one thing and still be a hack. That's usually how most hacks are, like Michael Bay.
He was involved with
For
Toxic
instance.
Avengers, so it's more than a couple of good movies. Thank you very much.
Oh boy, listen to this guy. But my point is, I have, especially after seeing the recent Guardians of the Galaxy movie, against my own will, I did so to appease my wife and Adrian's wife.
How was it?
It's fine. Just like all the other ones. I'm not a
okay.
big fan of them. They're not for me. They're too. This one's a lot darker than anything Marvel's put out. But they're just too. It's exhausting. It's like being in a room with a 15-year-old boy. It's exhausting. That's how I feel about those movies. But anyway, after watching that movie, I have absolutely no hope that he can be sincere. And if any of these rumors that we're hearing coming out about this movie are true, any of them that I've heard have all been bad. I haven't heard a single good one come out about this movie yet. It's never. There's no way. How is he going to make the Authority a sincere problem for Superman? Where's the sincerity from either of those two if they're going against each other? See what I mean? They're not going to be the characters they need to be for them to have a problem where they're going to be villains. Because the rumor is they're going to be the villains of the film.
Yeah, no, they are the
excited.
villains. Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I'm not excited about it. He's the wrong man for this job. He'd be fantastic in a lesser role where he's doing the group up movies or whatever. I think he could do that, especially the goofier ones. I think he'll probably make a fantastic Booster Gold film if he actually does get the chance.
Yeah,
But
Creature
the
Commandos
rest of
should be
it,
good too.
yeah, the rest of it, he's not the guy. He's just not the guy. He's not the guy to give me a sincere Superman movie, and that's what it must be. That's the key word, sincere.
Right. Well,
Superman has to be what he says he is at all times. He cannot be the butt of a joke
yeah, I
that
agree,
is
Jimmy.
anything other than like, he's out of place because he's so noble, right? That can be the joke. He's so good that people make fun of that a little bit, but he has to be sincere, and we've never seen him nail sincere without immediately butt ending it with humor. He
Yeah,
doesn't
no,
do
he
that.
can't.
He can't.
He can't sit on things. He doesn't have. He doesn't understand the quiet.
Yep.
That is true about Gunn. He doesn't understand quiet, the power of it. But I just don't understand how the Authority is the bad guy. It's good. That's very weird concept. But whatever. The Authority. All right.
And they are
The
gonna screw up Midnighter, bro. Oh, that's
I'm
not gonna
sure
be
they
fun.
are. He's gonna be over the top instead of what he really is. But
Yep.
another problem with it is these movies take ideas, put them in the movie, and then burn them, kill them, get rid of them, right?
Burn them
And
right
so
up.
they're constantly taking all these great ideas and just using them in one movie, and that's all you get. The Authority, you can make an entire, Warner Brothers, what do they call it, Max, HBO Max. You can make an entire series out of the Authority easy, and it would be interesting, adult even, right? But they're just going to throw it away in one movie. Jeez, dude. Oh,
Dumb.
whatever. But yeah, James Gunn. I don't know, dude. It's such a strange choice. But although I think a series with the Authority could work, especially in modern time, right?
Yeah, I think you could be fine. I don't know. I'm not everything I keep hearing, man, and especially after watching that movie, he just doesn't have the chops. It's not whether you like his movies or not. His movies are what they are. They have their audience, and that's fine. He's not the guy. He's just not. Now maybe he'll surprise me, and I hope he does, because I have been begging for a good Superman movie my whole life because I've never had one. So it'd be great. There's no excuse from the DC camp for Marvel to put out a decade of decent to sometimes great superhero films and them not to get a single good Superman movie made. Not even
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
There's no excuse for that. And the fact that it's still probably going to happen is just heartbreaking to me. It just breaks my heart because Superman should be he's the superhero. He should be the guy here. This should be his time for us to finally get
Yeah.
a proper full movie about
Yeah.
Superman,
But
and they just can't do it. They
he
can't.
just
They can't do it.
he just doesn't fit their ideology, dude. He just doesn't.
Yep. He's
They
too
don't
good.
want the goody two shoes because the world is
Too
horrible.
noble.
When you go listen, like we just talked about the all the hate that was coming toward the tragedy of those dead people in that sub, and you see I saw some of that a compilation of it, and one of the things I saw throughout that these liberals keep mentioning over and over, and I've noticed it over the years here. Uh, they often end their argument with "the world sucks anyway." And
Okay.
so this is the core of their problem. They're not happy,
Yep.
and
Miserable people
Superman
cannot make
is happy.
aspiration.
Yeah, they can't.
That's
They're
right.
not. They can't do aspiration because they're incredibly unhappy people, and they keep
He's
screaming to the
noble.
wind, hoping that they'll be happy, but it doesn't come. They just find that they're more miserable, and they don't understand it. Right?
That's right.
Because at the core, they're just really, really, really unhappy. Now we sit in here and talk about all this stuff, and we go over it. And we have a chuckle. Sometimes we get a little, let it vent a little bit. But the thing is, I don't know about you guys, but for me, I'm happy, dude. I'm very happy with my life, my wife, my friends, my job, the people I interact with. I'm a happy dude every day. I'm not miserable or negative or in any way. I'm very happy and positive person in my day-to-day interactions. Are you guys bitter and unhappy people?
How dare you be happy? I am insulted, sir.
All right, fine.
I'm
Well,
going
that answers that
I'm
question.
going to tell the NAACP.
You should.
Telling
I
you.
Yeah, happy white man. How dare he? Yeah.
I am incredibly happy and joyful all the time.
Well, you just discovered alcohol, so that's probably why.
No, even before the alcohol. Chester, you know how many people looked at me and said, "Don't let the world change you." Like that. That's what everyone has told me.
That is a homosexual man trying to get in your pants. Don't believe it.
Well, also that, but
I was an
also
old black
that is
man with a wife and 5 kids.
Hey, man,
that's
they
only
lurk
that's
everywhere. You have to keep your eye. Got to head on a swivel.
that's
Head on a
Whoa.
swivel.
We're good.
that right there, that phrase is a cope. People who have allowed themselves to become bitter, because at the end of the day, you have a choice. When bad things happen to you or good things happen to you, you can become bitter or you can become better. That's the choice. Every time, doesn't matter what it is, unless you die. Everything, if you survive it, every time, that's your choice.
And
And these people have chosen bitterness,
they
and they
have.
don't even realize it. That's the worst part. They don't think they're bitter, but they are, and you
Well,
see it come out in
yeah.
every piece of art they make. I mean, Tom King's the best example. That's a broken man. He cannot make happiness. He can't do it
Yeah.
because he's miserable, and you
Well,
see it in everything he produces.
well, the thing is, they've surrendered, and they don't
Yep.
realize it, right? Because I mean, sure, let's be practical. Humans do a lot of really bad shit. Oh yeah,
Yep.
all over. It
Always
doesn't
have.
matter. Doesn't matter their color. Doesn't matter their creed, right? It doesn't matter. Humans do bad things, sure, but they also do good things.
Yep.
You also have people living good lives, communities helping each other out, going in then like here, I don't go more than a couple days with some old lady could bringing in some fish or oranges or something like that, and then my wife takes that, distributes it to the people around her. It's this whole community's constantly sharing with each other. Is that a bad thing? No, it's a good thing, right? And the people around here live in
Communist.
peace. Well, if you want to go there, but because here in Japan they don't really give you news. I mean, it's literally you should turn on the morning news here, and it's about some puppy or something, right? So the Japanese are ignorant, fair, but they're happy and
Ignorance is bliss.
peaceful and interacting with each other. And this can be true all over the world. So sure, there are bad things. I understand that, but your job as a person is to try to rise above that and put your, I'm going to use an incredible hippie word here, love into your
That's right.
community.
What it actually means. It's
Yeah.
not just a feeling. See, that's the
Energy.
problem with the
Your
hippies.
energy.
Yeah, a lot of the hippies, because a lot of them were just hedonists. But the core of the hippie movement wasn't a bad thing. It was exactly what you said. It was them trying to put that energy, that positive energy, into the community, into the world.
Yeah.
It became something much different,
It
but that's
did.
where it
It became a
started.
yuppie.
Yeah. And
Zuckerberg.
this yes. Hey, I'll give Zuckerberg credit in this regard. He's trying to make himself into a better man. He actually is. You can
He
see it.
does.
Like he's out here doing, he's getting into fighting and all these things. I'll give him credit.
Jujitsu and
He's out
things
here
like that. Yeah.
working.
Yeah, you heard
Um,
that rumor about him and Elon having a fight. It's like, if they were two pasty nerds, Elon's bigger, so we'll give it to him. But
yeah,
Zuckerberg's an actual jujitsu champion, literally.
yeah. He's been
Uh,
he's been he's been working. Elon
no,
said, "Let's do it." He's down.
no. There's no way.
Yes,
Ain't no
I,
way.
I
Ain't
will.
no way.
I will
I've
tip.
seen,
I will tip my fedora to Commander Data's quest to become a real human.
Yes, he's,
that's true,
he's becoming a real boy.
dude. I've seen Elon dance. I've seen it. Yeah,
Yeah, no, he's not athletic. No, there's no
no,
athleticism in that
no,
body.
no.
It's all the power in that body's in the brain. There's none in
Mhm.
none in the physical form otherwise. Uh, but my point is you're correct, Chester. The way, and this is a corny little expression, but it's true. A lot of these people, back to Tom Ging, great example. They have a lot of demons. That's the term we use, demons, right? They're down, they're dour, they're depressed, they're sad, they're miserable. The only way to get rid of that, truly, is to become somebody else's angel, and that'll chase it away. Is the more good you do for people, the better you will become.
And the better you
That's a
feel,
fact.
the better you
The better
feel.
you feel,
Yeah,
the less you focus on all that negative, whatever it is, the more you do good, the more good you will be.
sure.
To do good or to be good, you must do good. It's
Yeah.
that simple. And that's what these people don't want. They want a virtue signal. They want the easy way. They want to say the right thing, and then they don't understand why they're miserable. You have a lot of we could take to another place. A lot of men who say the right things, quote unquote, about women, but then they don't understand why no woman wants to have sex with them. They don't get it. Their mind, it doesn't. Wait, but I'm saying the right stuff, but you're not doing the right stuff. Are you in the
Oh, that's
gym?
true.
Are you making money? Are you
Yeah.
treating people with dignity? Because women pick up on that more than men do. Are you
Uh-huh.
treating people with dignity and
That's right.
respect those around you? Are you a beacon of light to people? And I mean
Mhm.
that very literally. Do you bring people, make their mood better? Do you at least
Yeah.
try? Do you at least
Yeah.
try to be personable?
It's very true.
Women, good women especially, respond to that like moths to
Oh
a
yeah.
flame. They
Well,
love that
they
energy.
do, and it's always the advice you give to someone who's really really looking for a
Yep.
partner. It's like, well,
Yeah.
then stop looking.
Stop.
Yeah.
Just go be a
Just
beacon,
live your
dude. Come
life.
to you.
Be dude.
Yep.
Be cool. And then you'll be noticed. Yeah.
Yep.
And then once you do get a girlfriend, then you're gonna have a ton of girls because of like, why aren't I good enough for him?
Wait a minute. It's like,
Yeah.
calm down.
Oh, dude. As soon as you put a ring on your family, they come flooding at you, dude. They come
It's
flooding
silly.
at you. That's a
It's silly.
absolute truth, man.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyway, let's move on from this weirdness. I don't know. It's
Not looking
bizarre.
forward to it. Not
Yeah.
Warner
looking forward
Brothers has
to it.
had shitty management for all our life because there was a Twitter thread. It was actually pretty interesting about the events that led up to Batman '89 and some of the decisions that Warner Brothers was going to make prior to Tim Burton coming on. Well, it was pretty bad. It was pretty bad. They wanted to make that movie a comedy at the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
So
that's
if
what
you're
Gunn
wondering
does.
why we haven't got you haven't got a good Superman in 40 years, that thread is a good
Yeah.
indication as
Well,
to
because
why.
they want to spoof him because they can't deal with hope and virtue. They can't.
Yeah.
So spoof is what they do.
Makes them
Uh,
feel
you
bad.
know.
So they turn
But
him into a joke.
on that weird note, we have an interesting note.
Samaritan director Julius Avery provides update on his previously announced Van Helsing film. Now, interesting, because Van Helsing's the kind of hero you would think they would want to make.
Yeah.
He's not a good man. Let's put it that way. But he's doing a good thing. He's trying to, kill Dracula. But I wouldn't consider him he's not Superman. Put it that way. He's not a noble person
No,
in that
but
regard.
he's an interesting hero. He certainly
Yeah.
is. Of course, this is one of the creations of Bram Stoker, in his Dracula thing. But Van Helsing has become an icon of his own, mainly because of Peter Cushing, I'd say.
Yep.
No, the Samaritan was fine. A little bit boring.
Yeah.
But it was fine. Of course,
Took a while.
it took a while. He also did The Pope's Exorcist with Russell Crowe, which wasn't bad. He also did that other one I really liked. Avery here. The Invisible Man wasn't bad. Overlord was killer, right? Have you
Mhm.
guys ever seen Overlord?
I never
No.
even heard of it.
Yeah, you should go watch it. That's got a black lead too, but it's not forced. He's just the lead, and he happens to be a black American, right? But it's a great movie, dude. So this Avery guy is a pretty solid movie maker, right? And like I said, if you haven't seen Overlord, go watch that immediately. Understand that it's a horror movie. It's bloody and grotesque as hell, but it's wicked awesome, dude. It's really, really cool. And yeah, just go watch Overlord. It's a really good movie. So this Avery guy, I like what he does. Invisible Man wasn't bad. Did you guys see that?
No,
Yeah,
I don't think
wasn't
I've
bad.
seen his. I haven't seen his version.
Yeah, it wasn't bad. It was very different and it wasn't playing on the themes of the original book at all. But it wasn't a bad movie. Son of God I've never seen. Pope's Exorcist, like I said, was okay. Samaritan as well. But he's just lyrically in love with Van Helsing character. The way he's going on here when he's talking to Fangoria, Fangoria for life, by the way. Um, and of course, he was talking to James Wan, who he's good friend with. And in this conversation, they do bring up, of course, Hugh Jackman here and his portrayal, which one is one of my guilty pleasures. We have no details at all, but it looks like it's going forward, and he's very, very excited about it. And he's a filmmaker that can do his job. But I almost got the feeling, and I don't want to get anyone's excitement up, but I almost got the feeling that we might see Russell Crowe as Van Helsing.
That could be good. At least he can act. At least he would be a good actor. Put it that
Russell's
way.
very solid actor. He takes it
Yes.
very seriously. This is the dude, by the way. Looks like my brother, which is weird. But anyway, yeah, I'm on board for it, dude. Whereas I'm rather confused what James Gunn is doing. This guy right here, yeah, I kind of like what he's done. I want to see it really cool. And he's got you. If you listen to him talk, he's got Avery. His name's Julius Avery here. Um, he's got a passion for the character. He really likes the Van Helsing character.
Good
So,
character.
yeah, it is good. Good. Alan says, yeah, Overlord was pretty fun. Yeah, it was a great movie, dude. Uh, so, yeah, I just thought this would be a nice juxtaposition to the weirdness of James Gunn.
Interesting. Yeah, because that's the funny thing, right? So, like, I keep hammering on about this, that he's the wrong guy. And we've talked about who we think the right guy could be out there right now. Um, but when it comes to this particular director, he's actually put out some interesting stuff. So,
Mm,
I don't know. We'll see.
he has.
I wouldn't mind him to get this Van Helsing thing, because I think he'll do a good job with it. Because
I
it's a
think he will.
character
He's
that,
eclectic too.
yeah, it's a character that's easy to do wrong, as we've seen.
Sure,
Very easy to do wrong.
sure.
And as much as I like the Hugh Jackman version of it too, that's not Van Helsing. It is, but in name, sure, but
No,
he's not Van Helsing.
he's Michael, the angel.
Yeah,
But is what he is. Spoilers. But
yeah.
the Dracula 2000 take on Van Helsing was interesting. I like that. It was a good actor doing it too. That was interesting. Bela Lugosi here in the original Dracula, this Van Helsing was interesting as well. He was very much doctor-like. And I think most people identified Van Helsing with Peter Cushing, right? Of
Right.
Hammer Film Studio. But if you haven't seen this what is it, 32 or 31, something like that,
Somewhere in
uh,
there.
with Bela Lugosi, dude, go watch that. He kills it. I mean,
Oh, of course he
it's
did.
shocking how some of these old movies are really good, dude.
Well, they
Really
didn't
good.
have all the cheats.
Yeah, they had to earn it. Yeah, you're right. But Bela Lugosi kills it. And just as a modern reference, my boy Nick Cage does an amazing Bela Lugosi in Renfield.
Yeah,
He looks just like him. I mean, he embodied. Oh my God, dude, go watch Renfield.
yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah,
No.
ignore Aquafina. Ignore it. Just go ba ba
Yeah.
ba 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 ba. Do like that.
You won't do it. You won't trick him, and you can't make him. That's what he
Well,
said.
dude, Nicholas Holt kills it, and Nick Cage, of course, kills it. It's perfect role for him.
As he does.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the right amount of ham that he can just have his fun, and gets serious when it needs to, and he can do serious. When Nick's actually there to act, he can believe it or not, he can do the job.
Oh yeah, he can. No, it's true, and I agree, Alan. Like I said, it's a guilty pleasure. But I even like the Frankenberry thing you're talking about from Van Helsing. I liked it. It's a dumb movie. It's stupid. You know what it was? It's some damn producer group I got this idea. I get this idea, and there was like 10 of them. So we'll just glue them together. That's what that movie is. It's a bunch of movies that got put into one movie, right?
Yeah.
The Van Helsing. But it's just stupid popcorn fun. Uh, he does a great Bela Lugosi, Jason. It's yeah, oh, it's so awesome. But anyway, this is interesting. I'll keep my eye out for it because, like I said, I've seen most of his work and I like it, particularly Overlord. Overlord is such a great little flick, dude. And like I said, it doesn't mean anything because it's not the point of the storytelling, but that does actually have a black lead, and of course
Yeah.
Hollywood's all about that these days. But it's irrelevant
See,
though. It's just
Samaritan, Samaritan, like I think I said, it takes too long to get to its point,
it
and
is a bit slow.
unfortunately,
Yeah.
its twist is very obvious. It's not a surprise at all.
From 10 minutes in, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much scene one. I'm like, oh, all right, I see where we're going here.
Yeah. But the subtler twist, the base
Yeah,
twist, not the big twist, the base twist. I bet you they got a few people.
yeah, you're probably right. But I enjoyed it. I think it was probably budgetary reasons. It just needed more action in this action movie. There wasn't enough action in it, and it took too long to get to that point. Once it did, it was pretty cool. That last little run there is pretty awesome. But up until that point, it's just It's like, all right, we know where this is going. Let's just get there already, right? Like,
Yeah,
get there
no,
already.
they dragged it a little bit too much. But then again, you're dealing with a very aged Stallone.
Yep.
You're kind of limited in what you can really do with it. But no, it was the pace was too slow. I would have jacked it up about I don't know 30 minutes earlier.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think
But
that's
whatever,
probably right.
it's not a bad movie though. And you're right, Alan. I agree with everything with you regarding Van Helsing. I know it's not a bad it's a bad movie. I know it's a bad movie. I get it, but I
It's
like
not
it.
a good film.
No,
Yeah.
but I just like it.
It's Hugh Jackman at his best, in my opinion. Because if you try to let Hugh be a real actor, then you get things like Les Mis, and I
Or
just
the
no, just get
great
out of here.
performer. Yeah. Well, that's what
Oh,
he is. He is Broadway. That's what he
oh
really is.
God.
That's his heart. No, that's his heart. That's what
Yes,
he
it is. But
really
he
is.
should embrace what his body is, and his body is of an action movie
And he
star.
did. He gave us Wolverine full-hearted and with loyalty and
That's true.
love. He did. He
That's
gave it to us full on.
And then he went
He
back to singing
cherishes
and
it.
kicking his legs and being quite homosexual. It's fine. It's fine.
Well, I mean, he is what he is. It is what he is. But I'm just saying he gave his heart and soul to that, and he wasn't ashamed of it.
That's true.
Because we see
He
that a
did
lot.
take pride.
Jennifer Lawrence is the first thing that pops in my head in modern time. She was so embarrassed to be Mystique, and I'm like, girl, that's what made you famous.
Yeah.
It's
Money.
like you moron. Anyway, where Van Helsing had Fabio Hair, dude. Yeah,
Yes, he was definitely not Van Helsing.
yeah.
We agree.
Don't don't you pick on the Fabio.
I actually wish that movie we got a sequel just because it was fun. I thought it was fun. I'll still watch it if it's around. Every now and again I'll just pop. It's one of those kind of movies. They don't make movies like that anymore that you can just watch and not watch at the same time. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Like you can just half ignore. I don't know. Movies just don't have that quality anymore, and I kind of appreciated that with Van Helsing.
You know what would be perfect? Fabio as Van Helsing, Ben Affleck
Oh,
as Dracula.
God. Why?
Perfect
I don't know what
pair. Perfect
I
pair.
don't know what circle of hell we walked into, but we need to leave immediately.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's continue on the movie theme because I have a question.
Uh-oh. Craven the Hunter star Aaron Taylor Johnson teases conflict with Spider-Man.
Okay, let's break this down for a second. All right. Now, first, I'm going to make an apology. I know, shocking. I'm going to apologize because I had mentioned some time back that, hey, I saw the Craven thing. It looked like it might be cool. Well, I made a mistake because I was sitting
Yes.
here working and I had the TV going on the side and I was listening and kind of cast my eye over. It was mainly radio for me. And what I had seen was the Spider-Man game. And
Yeah.
the graphics have gotten so good that the just kind of out of the side of my eye, I thought it was a movie, right? And then I saw
Yeah.
the actual trailer. I was like, oh, and then I could say, oh, this is a game level quality of stuff. I was like, okay, it's not real. But on the side of my eye, I thought it was the movie, and I was like, oh, that's Craven being Craven. My question is this: how is Aaron Taylor Johnson, good looking fella? The trailer
Yeah.
looks good. How is Aaron here going to have any conflict with Spider-Man when, first of all, Spider-Man is a kid's property right now, and that's perfect. But he's a hero. He's a full-on hero. How is he going to have conflict with Spider-Man?
I don't know. Because, I mean, especially the conflict that he should have with Spider-Man, the character they're presenting here is completely antithetical to. So,
Yeah, it's
at least in
weird.
the trailer, unless in the movie he's a totally different character, in
No,
the
he's not.
trailer, he's not going to be a guy who wants to kill Spider-Man because he wants to hunt things.
No.
That's not what
He's a
gonna do.
hero.
That's
He's taking the evil men his father puts into the world. He said it very clearly, right? And
That's
now from the game trailer, that is Craven, because one of the best storylines Spider-Man has ever had, and come at me, bro. One of the best Spider-Man storylines ever had was the death of Craven. That
Craven
was
the
a
Breast.
killer run with Spider-Man. And please give me that story. I would love to have that story of Craven, this megalomaniac, selfish, murderous, bastard coming in to hunt Spider-Man because he sees him as the perfect prey and
Yeah.
thinking he killed him. I mean, that's the Craven we want. This is just introducing a new hero into a Marvel. And it's like, what a missed opportunity, dude. Craven is a great bad guy because he's just bad. He
So
murders
as of
people
now,
because it's fun.
right? As of now, they've taken two of his best, maybe his best villains, arguably, that came around about the exact same time on
Venom. Yeah.
oddly enough,
Another good
Venom
run.
and Craven, and they've turned them into heroes for some reason that have absolutely no reason to even fight Spider-Man. But yet they're gonna try and shoehorn it in. You can watch. Uh, it's just dumb. Like it's just bad writing. Why did these characters need their own films? I understand Venom. I kind of understand because he's extremely popular. I get the financials of it, but Craven's not that pop. Not outside of comic book circles, he's not that popular.
Yeah.
Venom is. Venom's a draw. Craven's not a draw.
Yeah, but he's a
So
bad
why
guy
is
too.
he?
Right.
Yeah. Why are we making a movie about a character who's not a draw on his
'Cause-
own?
Yep.
And then turning him into something that isn't that character.
Because
So
none
it's just in the name.
well, none of the shit in Phase 4, they're trying to create their new Avengers, they're trying to create their new team, get rid of the old, that's stupid, we're going to burn that. We need new stuff, right? So, and everything they've tried to throw at the wall has failed. So like, oh, we need more heroes. Do Craven. That's what this is. And I guarantee you along the line to just make him fit into their little checkbox, he's probably gay. Right? Probably.
Yeah, why not?
Why not? Just so it checks their boxes.
Or,
But that's
or
what
he's into
this is.
animals.
Well,
Screw
no,
it.
that whatever.
crazy.
You know how they are. But I'm just saying that's why this is doing this because every other hero that they've tried to promote has failed horribly, and they're just trying to throw. We need more heroes, and it's a shame because this is Sony, right? This is not
Yeah.
Marvel. This is Sony. And dude, Craven
this
is a
wasn't-
great bad guy, and you're right. Craven's
Yeah.
Last Hunt, Jiminy. It's a great series.
If this
I
wasn't a
think
Craven
it's-
movie, I think this could be an interesting film. It's got a good cast. I think Aaron Taylor Johnson's pretty good. Everything I've ever seen him in, he does fine. And obviously, it has Russell in it. So I think it could actually be an interesting film. You could make it a little bit more psychological because you don't have to tie it into the comic book stuff. You could do some interesting stuff with this character idea. But what it looks like they did to me is they took an idea that somebody else had and then just stapled Craven on it. And it's not going to work. It's not going to work at all.
Yeah, well, you
Go
know
ahead,
what it
Grimlock.
looks like they did. You know what? And I'm going to stand behind this comment. I think what
Oh.
they've done is race and gender swapped Vixen.
Probably.
Stole it, straight up stole
I-
it from DC. About time.
I think it's more of keeping property rights, the IP rights, because
maybe.
that seems to be a big driving force in some of these decisions because nobody was asking for at least nobody was asking for a Craven solo. We was asking for
No.
Craven. We wasn't
Yeah, we
asking for
wanted
this.
Big old bad guy. But Alan is
Like
hit it on the head, though.
it's the same thing with Morbius. Like people would have liked to have seen Morbius. We didn't want that.
Yeah, but see, I
So-
like that movie though. I like that movie.
I still haven't watched it yet.
Yeah,
And I'm saying it's because I'm a Morbius fan. Like I have the omnibuses, I have the figures and stuff. I'm still
Then
waiting
you
for my
would like it.
Mezco.
You would like it then because it's
Right.
basically what it is a throwback to the old 60s sci-fi movies, and I think that's what's gotten in the craw of the youngins because they don't get it. But I like
Oh.
Morbius. I thought it was fun.
I take no opinion of anybody under the age of 25 anymore. When I go on social media now and I see something that I see is horrendously stupid, I go straight to the bio. I'm like, oh, under the age of 25, pronouns in the bio, right? Disregard.
I think a lot of the hate for that was because Jared Leto is a perv predator.
He's a fucking. He's a mook.
He's Ezra Miller type, and people hate him, and I get it. And he's got a very dull and kind of soft delivery. But for Morbius, it works pretty well, right? But Alan has hit it on the head here. He was bitten by a radioactive gay lion. Get with the times, Chester. Yeah, you're right.
From the trailer, it looks like
Don't give them ideas.
It looks like his dad killed a lion that was on top of him, and the blood from the lion got into his blood, and now he's a lion man.
Telling you, he's a race swapped, gender swapped vixen.
Yep. I just again, just like with Venom, these stories are so. This should be the easy, especially those two. Venom's original show up run and Craven,
Yeah,
which they feed into each other. This should have been easy money, guys.
Yeah.
Easy. You
Yeah.
should have made billions off of these stories. They're so 1-to-1. You could take them right from the comic. You don't even need to change a lot. It's a visual medium. Just do the comic in live. That's all you had to do. And they didn't do it. They won't do it.
But the problem is, we complained about this before. They constantly skip things to the front of the line.
Yep.
Because they're trying to. Oh, well, what can make us the most money now? It's like, no, stupid. If you did this right, if you would, first of all, why are you fucking making a movie with Craven supposed to be a hero, but you're teasing a conflict with Spider-Man, and he's one of Spider-Man's greatest villains?
Yeah, no,
That
it's
people, like,
yeah.
you have no idea what the fuck you're doing.
Yeah.
But if you would have built this up right, and Marvel has and the MCU, for better or worse, they shown, especially with all those post-credit scenes, you do something right. If you'd done it right and you'd set it up, you've done 3 Spider-Man movies. By now, you could have had a Spider-Man movie where Craven is watching some of Spider-Man's antics from, the news reports or whatever.
Yeah.
And,
says go
and
hunt.
he's watching him with great interest.
Mm.
Here's how I do it. I was
teasing that idea of his next conquest.
So they've had these 3 solo Spider-Man movies with Tom Holland. All right, fine. And I think the third one was by far the best one out of all of them. If they were going to bring in a guy like Craven at any point, which obviously they didn't plan on that, but if they were going to, he should have been built up not as ridiculously long as Thanos, but similarly. There should have been at least 2 of those films where, one, you're introduced to the character without naming him, just like Thanos, but you get to see kind of his thinking. One of the best ways to do that is Craven. He's the quintessential hunter. He's literally called Craven the Hunter. You should have shown somebody terrified of him being hunted by him, and then him succeeding in the hunt.
Yeah,
and that's where
some other hero, lower level hero.
That's
yeah.
it. Yeah,
That'd be
that's
your
it.
opening scene right there.
And then in the next one, you show him getting his attention is drawn to Spider-Man because he's bored basically. He's bored of hunting all these other ones. He wants that one. That one's the one. That's the big kahuna. And that's it. That's all you'd need. He's as far as the motivations go, he's very simple. It's a very simple idea. He's a hunter. Spider-Man's prey. Now, obviously, it becomes a lot more than that, but the concept is so good because it's something that Spider-Man, it's an inversion, just like Venom, an inversion for Spider-Man. Usually, Spider-Man's the hunter. He's out there chasing the bad guy. He's trying to find him or stop him or whatever. Not when Craven shows up, he's the prey. Same with Venom. He's the prey.
Yeah, no,
So
I know.
dumb.
And his name is I found interesting because Craven literally means cowardly. So he's the cowardly hunter. It's interesting. And of course, with I'm not going to get into that. However, I hear you, Chad. I hear you saying, no, Chester, it's actually Catman. No, Catman was a magical piece of cloth. And you're saying, well, but Vixen was a magical talisman. So, okay. Made my point. But this is dumb.
Man, it's
a waste.
Wasted opportunity.
Because you could have
Craven's story. Oh, it could have been so good, dude.
Yeah, and you could have had this
good.
just menacing Craven, hunting and tearing apart Spider-Man's life. Oh, dude.
Apart.
Yeah, it would have been fun. But nope, that's not we're getting.
You could have made him
Hero
almost
Boy.
a Jaws-like character, where you don't even see him that much, but you see his effect.
Yeah,
And you know he's out there.
Yeah,
because that's how he beats Spider-Man. He gets in his head. It's not that he's so much more dominant or whatever. He just he gets in his head. He knows. He studies him. He hunts him. He makes him his prey.
He does.
And that's how humans have dominated the world. We study our prey. We know what they're going to do, and we get there before them. And it's just it's disgusting because it could have been awesome. I don't even think necessarily this guy. I mean, I would have picked a bigger, maybe older man, but as far as an actor goes, I think he'll probably give it a good shot.
I'm sure
he might have been able to pull it off.
Might be a fun movie, but it's just not going to be Craven. Yeah.
It's not Craven. If they would have made this movie and just took Craven's name off of it, kind of like Morbius, take Morbius' name off of it, I think it would have been fine. I think it would have made its money and done what it needed to do. But they tried to.
I'm gonna be honest.
It's just not working.
If you got this dude to lose the vest and dye his hair blonde, Beastmaster.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, that was good. But we don't want don't give him ideas.
We need that.
We don't want
we
to
need
touch
another Beastmaster.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't.
Yeah, we haven't had.
Screw it up, but a good one. I take a good one.
That was
With
great.
modern
man.
tech.
And that had a
Oh,
hottie in it. Damn. Anyway,
Yep.
let's move on. My time is starting to click away.
Click, 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 click. Marvel She-Hulk actress, that's generous, Jamila Jamil wants to keep gendered acting awards, proposing giving non-binary people their own category rather than open the door for Hollywood to completely shut out. I'm assuming that means women. Yeah, women.
Yeah.
Hey, well, you know what? I made fun of your acting ability as you pretend to have, but at least you have the right opinion. Yeah,
well,
I think that's
she has it, but in the wrong way. You don't understand what she's really saying. She 100% believes that we should non-binary the entire world. But, think of the women too, though.
Yeah. No, she's one of these retarded feminists. She's one.
Yeah,
she
very
actually had an op-ed page that says, if you could make men better if you raised young boys to be like women. So as far as I'm concerned, Jamila Jamil can suck the most rancid part of my taint to the day she falls over and finally dies.
Old woman with a weave. Hope.
Yeah, that's a problem.
And to be honest, she's not saying that because she gives a fuck. She's only saying that because, what happens if I ever get an award? Honey, you're never going to have to worry about that.
And she even admits that. She admits you'll never get one.
Unless you plan on sucking some dick, and you seem to be opposed to that, unless you plan on sucking some dick, an award is not going to be in your future.
Yeah. Well, she admits she's never going to get an award. She does say that in the article.
Oh, good.
Shame. It's just such a shame that you have people who have that belief, right? That we need to destroy the masculine. That's ridiculous. That's important.
Meanwhile, she probably lets a guy who got 7 felonies on his record toss her around once a weekend.
That's right. Yeah.
Well,
finds the most Chad of Chads out here
and
lets him do what he wants to her.
Keep in mind what she's responding to is the Academy Awards. The Academy has decided that they're going to get rid of gendered awards.
How's that going to work?
It's not.
So, in other words, no man's ever going to win an award again unless he's some kind of gay or black.
But if any of you are still watching the Oscars, why?
Yeah.
I mean,
see,
honestly,
I told you. What did I say about the Oscars this year? It was bait. It was a trap.
It is.
The reason why all the fan favorites and everything won and got it, everybody was all happy is because they were getting ready to do something stupid. Here we are. We're in stupid now. We're in the stupid place. That's just dumb. Like I don't even play the game of calling everybody actors. No. You're actors and actresses. The English language is gendered. I don't care how much they try and pretend it's not. It absolutely is a gendered language. We have suffixes and pronouns for both. So get out of here with that bullshit.
Yeah.
This idea that English is somehow a non-gendered language like Spanish, it's not as gendered as Spanish. It's not anymore, but it absolutely is a gendered language, 100%. And there's no shame in being called an actress. Why would you be shamed by that? It just means you're a female who acts. That's it. That's all it does. You're a female who gets paid to pretend to be other people, basically.
Well,
that's basically it.
Look at her writing, though. I was terrified of even writing something as benign as that in this current climate of social politics, but it appears a lot of you agree. Thank you for taking my best intention to heart and for giving me the benefit of what the doubt. Okay. I want everyone to win, to build the world we want. We have to work incrementally with the world we actually have first. If we leapfrog progress with utopia ideals that ignore current proven systems, we will collapse everything we are working toward. That was good. But there was a lot of weird grammar.
I don't believe she don't believe that shit for one fucking minute.
No, she doesn't.
Because if she did, she wouldn't have the spot that she does.
Yeah. How about I
understand?
Tower's real quiet.
What was that, Tower?
Sorry. I was gonna say I found a solution to your situation with the gendered like pronouns and all that. let's just go back to 1920s where every role is played by a white man in his 30s. Like any race, white man's 30s with paint. A little
Problem
12-year-old
solved.
girl played by a grown white man.
Well,
You know, just
I,
1920s. Like the females are played by men, the
you
males are
you
played by
have been
men.
propagandized, Tower. I don't blame you. You are young. In the 30s, there actually was more female superstars than there were men. Actually,
No,
He
I
said the
say this in
20s.
like the joke
and
ones where it's
even more
like
than.
there's a 12-year-old girl and a grown man comes out playing in a dress playing that role.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I
That's
understand, but you're going back you're going way back. You're going back to vaudeville stuff. Actually, in the early cinema, the 20s and 30s, there were a few notable names. You know, Charlie Chaplin being one of them. But most of the big hits, most of the draws to the cinema were the women, not the men.
what changed that was the westerns, the
The
western,
cowboys,
the
yeah.
male stars,
Well,
yeah, the cowboy
Hollywood.
era.
Hollywood changed that because in that
That's true.
time before the war, the kings of cinema were the Europeans, Germans and French
Yep.
particularly. The Americans were way behind. I think I went through this when I explained how vaudeville became Hollywood, right? But because the war collapsed Europe, the Americans had an opportunity to, take the limelight, and they did. And
Did.
during the 40s and of course into the 50s, the Western became the thing, and that's very male dominated because it's cowboys, war movies as well. They played a part in it. But if you go back to the early part of cinema, I'm not talking 19th century. I'm talking about 20s and 30s. Most of the big hits, if you go the big stars, you go back and look at it, they were the starlets, and there were a lot of
Yep.
famous women. Yeah,
See, there it is again, Chester. The degenderification of our language. Starlet. That
starlet.
was that was a that's what we called them when they were females.
Well,
This
that's
it drives
that's
it.
the
I don't
proper
know. It
word.
has to drive you nuts as well, being
Hmm.
being a language man. How these people insist on taking away. They literally are erasing the woman by
Oh yeah,
erasing
they hate women.
their
That's true.
suffixes. It's
The modern
ridiculous.
feminists hate women. Oh, they do. That's very, very clear. They hate the women 100%. And this
We
whole,
want
well,
equality. We want
well, you
everybody to be
remember
the same.
we've been doing this show long enough that we've seen the entire growth of this new alphabet, long naming of the LGB. I don't even know what the hell it's up to. Go ask Justin Trudeau; he knows. But we've seen the entire run of it on this channel, right? And what did we say way back in the beginning? That all of these Karens supporting it and all the gays who were cheering it, that they're going to come for you too, dude. And look what's happening now. The transgender types and all their Karen allies are trying to force the gays out of the LGBTQWXYZ. They're trying to
Yep.
force them out. We're already seeing it happen because you're not what is the word? What is it? They're all you're not minority
Inclusive
enough.
enough.
You're not inclusive enough. You're not oppressed enough.
Yep.
Being gay isn't good enough anymore, right? And we said that this was going to come to where it is, and here it is, right? And the thing is, these people, these third wave feminism in particular, hates women. They hate women with a passion. And that's the thing that makes me chuckle because I'm sure people don't agree with me with the Dylan Mulvaney thing. Because Dylan Mulvaney is just another gay guy mocking women because that's what
Yep.
gay guys do. A lot of them, not all, but a lot of gay guys will mock the hell out of women because they don't like them, right? And
Yep.
a lot of them are gay
Exactly.
probably because they had bad relationships with women, right?
What's
And Dylan,
funny is Milo Yiannopoulos when he was still gay. I guess
well,
I don't know how
he's
you call him now.
yeah,
But when
whatever,
he
yeah.
was very, obviously the flamer that he was, he would say that openly. He said, "No, I'm gay because I hate women."
Yeah.
Very simply, just succinct. He didn't mince words about it. He didn't fancy it up. I can't. They're insufferable. I can't stand them. That's what he
Yeah.
said. He'd say it all the time.
Yeah. But I
Very
mean,
clear
that's what
about it.
Dylan was doing, right? He's mocking women. And it got
Yep.
to a point where he had to make a decision either get out from it or go in for the money. And he went in for the money. And you can see the toll it's taking on him. It was the wrong choice. You just go back to being a gay dude that hates women, dude. I mean
Yeah.
that's where you're. But he's trying to make money and he is making money. But that's a problem. There's a lot of nonsense and toxic insecurity and hate is involved with these people. And Jamil, of course you have this name. Of course you do, right? And Grimlock, explain something to me about your people. What's
Uh-oh.
up with
It ain't much. She ain't.
what's up with a naming convention? Please.
Well, for one, she's
What is a
not one of ours.
what is
She's
a jaquisha? What is a jaquisha? Explain this to me.
that is called niggardry.
Yeah. That's the official
Um,
dictionary term. Yep.
Jesus
Yeah.
Christ.
Yes,
All I'm
niggardry
about to
is
do
the
is that I'm
official
not that
sorcery of the Negroids. The bane of us black people.
Yeah.
Get worse.
But I just don't understand what a jaquisha, laquisha, katisha,
Um,
kitisha,
it
katisha,
it okay. So
wakisha,
there was
wikisha.
two
I've
trends.
seen a wikisha. I shit you
There were
not.
there was two trends when it came to naming black kids. In the 80s and 90s, the trend of I'm gonna give my kid an African name, in spite of the fact the closest I've ever been to an African is when I was at the Port Authority that one time in 1986. That was that trend. And then this other trend in the early 2000s is the naming convention of everything with a la, a da, a tie, like and unnecessary apostrophes in names to make something sound more unique. It's like, no, all you're doing is making people think you're dyslexic.
Okay. Let me help the world. The average black African
Negrophobia.
no, dude, the average black African name is, wait for it, Mohammed.
Muhammad. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's the
Arab.
average
It's an
one.
Arab name.
So old Malcolm X was closer to it than the rest of you. Let me throw out some other African names for you. Ada. Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of kings.
Nala. That's a good one. That's a pretty name. That's a pretty name, Nala, which simply which simply means us, right? You have
Uh-oh.
another very popular
they,
one,
them.
Omar or Amari, right? Zendaya. She's got an actual African name. She does, right?
The
Omar
there's a
Omar was a thing like in the 90s. There was a lot of brothers named Omar, but
Omar.
that's kind of gone away.
Yeah, but
There's
I mean,
a wrestler right now, Chester, a big Nigerian guy. He goes. His name is Omas. That's his actual first name.
yeah.
Yeah.
But you know how many Abdullahs there are in Black Africa? I mean, do
Yeah, a
you
lot.
know? I mean,
A lot.
I mean, these names they're coming up with have no connection to Africa whatsoever.
No,
I
it's a
know
made-up
that,
culture.
but again, it is
It's
a
like
powerful sorcery.
yeah.
It is, I guess. You know how many names in Africa start with chi? Chi something. Chima, Chikira, Chika, Chike, Chinma.
Oh my god, fucking how?
Let me see what he said.
Shit.
What does he say? Jaquishas are Detroit-made fresh fleshlights, and they don't need no man. I
Holy
think I
shit.
maybe understand what that means. Okay. Anyway, moving on. We're moving on. We're moving on.
Oh no.
That is
Financial analyst speculates the Walt Disney Company has lost nearly $900 million at the box office in the past year.
And we're only halfway
Almost a
through
cool
this year.
billion. Almost a cool billion.
I think they're
Um,
over 2 billion if you count last year involved in it.
well,
Wow.
considering that the only movie I think that they have put out in the last calendar year that wasn't would be considered a flop is Guardians 3. Yeah, I could believe that.
Yeah.
Because everything else has failed to some varying degree.
Big failure right here. Right?
Uh-huh.
Uh-huh. And we got more failures coming. Don't forget the Pixar stuff is dropping left and right. They're failing left and right. We had two of them bomb, right? This Dial of Destiny's got to bomb hard, right?
I think Disney's going to get bought by 2025. One of the
Bomb.
big dogs is going to gobble them up. Amazon or Apple, Somebody, one of the
I
A
think
companies.
Maybe.
it
Maybe
might
even Alphabet. Might even be Alphabet. That'd be
it might
hilarious.
be
A different
it
A
might
came up,
be
showed in.
it might be even sooner than that. But what I'm hoping, because they kind of backed themselves into a corner with Hulu, and
Yeah, no, that's true.
some of this and a lot of the stuff I'm hearing is that to let's put it this way: to actually buy Hulu outright, it would cost them 10 times the amount they actually have to operate with right now.
Yeah, but it's deeper than you think because they still owe huge
Oh yeah,
amounts of money
they still owe they still
for Hulu,
haven't turned they still haven't turned a profit on
right?
Star Wars.
Well, they're going
They
to
are
default on the Hulu thing, dude.
way
They're close to defaulting on that.
That'll
well,
be
yeah.
interesting. I think what'll probably end up happening if they don't somehow, I don't think they're going to be able to sell wholesale the company. I don't think they will. I think they'll be forced to break it up when they sell.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
please sell Marvel, please.
that's probably what'll happen is Marvel and Star Wars will be forced to be separated
Right.
at least.
Well, you heard the
those two.
rumors of Lucas buying it, right?
Yeah, for the love of God, just do it, George. I get why you got upset, the fans who got mad at you because you made a kids movie and they expected an adult movie because they were adults. I understand, George. I get it. I understand why you're mad, but please, for God's sakes, buy it back. Just buy it back and shelve it. That would be better
Yeah.
than anything Disney's going to do with it.
Maybe.
Holy shit.
Well, I don't know the truth of that. Why did they make Adam Warlock so ugly? Someone help me.
Because everybody's got to be ugly, Chester.
I
We're not allowed to
suppose.
have beauty
Dude,
anymore. No
Did
beauty.
you guys watch The Extraction 2 with Chris Hemsworth?
I did not,
No.
but I've heard from you and other people that it's fantastic.
Oh, it's a great action flick. But the boy in that, the lead boy, and he plays an important role actually. One of the ugliest humans I've ever seen in my life. He's radically ugly.
Bowling shoe ugly is what you're telling me.
Yeah, dude. It's like, wow.
No, I need to check that out. It's the problem with me is it's on Netflix. And I don't have Netflix. I'm not giving Netflix money, so I'm gonna have to go
Oh, I
sail the
see.
high seas. Find it.
Yeah, but it is a great action flick, though. Really is. But all these are big failures. Marvel's has got a fail. Indiana Jones is already looking like it's going to bomb horribly. Everything is bombing. Everything is bombing for Disney. And like I said, this number is just this first half of this year. In reality, if you go back and you look at last year as well, this is getting close to $2 billion just for Disney failures. Not talking about other failures. It's a lot of money, dude.
I need you to understand.
Yep.
That's just an actual losses. Imagine potential loss.
Oh yeah,
That's not
sales,
calculated.
toys.
It's probably incalculable. They
It's
took
huge.
the absolute biggest singular seller of merchandise to ever exist. It made George Lucas a billionaire. A billionaire.
It did.
And
Yeah.
made it not sell. They made it not functioning.
Yeah.
They Toys R Us went out of business because they baked everything on Star Wars toys, and it bit them in the ass because nobody was buying them.
Yeah, it's true.
That is impressive that they killed the brand that hard.
And I don't know how it is over there, but there's like wholesalers and outlet stores here, and they can't get rid of the shit because I go there, and you could just see the stacks of fucking Star Wars and like the Eternals especially. Like them shits are selling for like $7. Nobody wants them, and their boxes full of them.
Well, here in Asia, Star Wars is kind of niche. It's never really caught on like it did in the West. It's not the most popular thing that we
It's
make.
a very
that they
Western
like.
story.
It is, yeah. But I have to say this right here. Why is he not Black Panther?
Because he's a man. That's the only answer I got for you.
But he was one of the coolest parts of that movie, dude.
Yeah, of course he was. Well, we can't have
because as I told people from before, the Chadwick Boseman dying was just convenient. The intent all along was after that first movie, they was gonna make Black Panther a girl because that was Feige's plan. That was his grand plan.
Right. Yeah, we know.
There was no intention. So when everybody keeps saying, why not M'Baku? It was never the plan. Chadwick dying was just convenient.
Yeah, no. We know that's true. unfortunately. But he would have that would have been the solution for me. But anyway, just we know, but it's just once again just slapping you in the face all this failure. And this article is interesting. Go read it. It just details all these failures, dude. Look how that right there could have been easy money, dude. Easy
Should have been. Yeah,
money.
easy.
Why did Andy fall in love with Buzz? The movie he saw as a child. You could have made
Yeah.
that and it would have been absolutely great. They murdered Chadwick. Oh no, Jason. Conspiracy
And
theory.
instead of just letting the man who is Buzz Lightyear voice him, they went out and changed him,
Oh
and
yeah,
that
because he's a man.
immediately,
Yeah, yeah, man
yeah,
man.
because
Yeah.
he dares to just not be a cuck. Um, that right there was all I needed to know that I didn't want to watch this.
Sure.
Even if nothing else was different, I'm like, nah, I'm good. Disney's been screwing over Tim Allen since forever. I'm good. Like I
Yeah.
just don't get it. He was Buzz Lightyear. He loved being Buzz Lightyear. There was never a moment where he regretted it. Like he was a great ambassador for that character, and they just cast him aside to put Evans in. And it's nothing against Chris Evans, whatever, but it's just stupid. Like it's just
Yeah.
it's
Politics.
Disney's
Politics.
stupidity, stupid politics getting in the way of making something cool. Because I would have loved to see a proper Buzz Lightyear movie. That would have been
Mhm.
sick. If we could have
Yeah.
got, like you said, the movie that made Andy fall in love with the character,
Yep.
the reason why the toy was there to begin with, we could have saw that.
Yep.
That would have probably been awesome.
And
We
you know
didn't
what
get
you
that.
could have done? You know what you could have done? You could have left the animation style is fine, right? But you start out with Toy Story animation, right? You go with
Yep.
Andy, little Andy. He's with his mom. They stop by Pizza Planet. And then they go over to the cinema and he sits down to watch this movie with mom, right? Because it seems like dad's dead in that. Of course, Hollywood hates fathers. But he
Yeah,
sits
no
down with
problem.
mom and then boom, your movie starts. It,
Bro,
genius,
you
dude.
listen.
Money.
Listen how you make this movie amazing. We get a little bit more backstory on Andy because we don't know anything about his dad. Make his dad he was an astronaut or something, and he died in a tragedy, right? Like, and that's why Buzz Lightyear clicked with him so much, right? Because he could imagine that like his dad was something like that.
Yeah.
You could do
Yeah.
something like that. Toy Story's always been great at doing that, at hitting you with a surprise, emotional, like oomph right in the gut, and making you go, "Oh, damn!" Right? Like for a
Right.
kids movie, it's always been very, very good at the emotional sucker punches, I guess you want to call it.
No, it's true.
And that could have been one, and that would have made so much sense. It would have made that makes perfect sense why a kid would relate to Buzz Lightyear if he lost his father that way. Because it doesn't have to be that his dad, because as far as we know, his dad was a deadbeat and he just ditched him, right? We don't know. It's never been mentioned. Why? Why not mention it? That would have been the perfect time to do it, and then you give us a cool Buzz Lightyear movie about Buzz Lightyear, now whatever that character was, and I don't know, we just didn't get that,
Yeah,
and
it's a
it's a
shame.
shame because I wanted to see it. I'm not even a big like animation fan, but I remember when Toy Story came out, I was a kid at the time when the first one came out, and I liked Toy Story a lot. I thought it was really good, and I obviously liked Buzz. Everybody liked Buzz. Falling with style, classic line, and which was Woody, but still classic line. And I just think it could have been a great like generational type movie, kind of like what Star Wars used to be, where it was something whole families grew up with, right? You had
Mhm.
dads and granddads at this
Sure.
point and stuff. You could have done that. Toy Story's like that too for a lot of people. You could have easily had this been the capstone to like tie that knot back
Oh yeah.
together, tie that bow back
Yeah.
together. And
Yeah.
instead, you had to inject it with your nonsense. You
Yeah.
had to. You
No,
couldn't
that's
help
true.
yourself.
Because that
Ah,
Buzz Light movie, your Buzz Lightyear movie, I would have watched in a heartbeat.
yep,
Yeah.
yep.
Anyway, let's move on here. Now we're talking about all this lost money, and let's see what the future. We're gonna look at the future, see what the future holds. Here you go.
Star Wars continues to promote vile, destructive gender ideology, reportedly casts man pretending to be a woman in The Acolyte.
New Star Wars. Okay. Well, how
And
about
I
this
will
one?
say this.
Nobody's gonna watch.
I'll read this one too. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
yeah.
No,
No,
go to the
hold on,
next
hold on
one.
a second. Well, I'm looking at what's upcoming because we've lost a lot of money. Let's see what the future.
Yep.
So we got transgender acolyte. Okay.
Yep. Film and TV critics say Secret Invasion series pushes Disney's not so secret agenda that men are women and women are men. Of course it
Mm,
does. Yep.
okay. All right. All right. They got that option coming out. And we got this one too. Yeah.
Upcoming Star Wars film focused on Rey will see her train a female apprentice destined to emerge as the future leader. Of course
Okay.
it is.
So, do you think things will get better? This is the future.
No.
Is it going to get better? Are they going to start
No,
making money, or are they going to lose another
Disney's
$1
gonna
billion?
get bought. That's what's gonna happen. They're gonna get bought. There's too much value there, and they're squandering the shit out of it. Someone's gonna come along, and if they get a proper offer, they can't say no unless the shareholders say no, which they're not gonna. Why
No.
would they say no to money?
Yeah.
So if they get a proper offer, they're forced by law to take it, barring extenuating circumstances, or the shareholders rejecting it.
Mhm.
So I think that's going to happen. The shareholders know they're losing money. I bet you those shareholders meetings, those quarterly meetings they give out, those reports, bet you those are something. Bet those are fun to be. I'd like to be inside them. Maybe I should get some stock so I can listen in.
The last couple of ones have
Blood
been recorded,
bath.
and
Yeah,
they was interesting, to say the least.
yeah.
They're not
So-
happy. I always love the fact you
No.
can tell the power level of Rey about the number of buns she has on her head.
Yeah, she's way above everybody else. I mean, look at that. Come on now, that's insane. But yeah, no, I honestly think Disney's going to get bought. They're not going to right the ship. They've been completely captured. And let me rephrase that. They have not been captured. This has been Disney my whole life. They've just been far less subtle about it in the last few years, and I think the culture's much more sensitive to it. They've always been pushing degenerate, regressive nonsense. My whole life. People don't think that. Go watch those old Disney movies with the eyes you have now and tell me what they're pushing. Most of them, except the only one that doesn't, is Aladdin. It's the one I like. Most of them are pushing nonsense if you actually watch them.
Yeah, no, sure. They've been doing it a long time. That's true.
They've been doing this a long time.
They're just
Disney.
more aggressive.
Yeah, they're
but,
just more aggressive.
transgender acolyte, great. We already know this is going to be a bomb because people are complaining because the first 2 episodes the critics have seen and they hate it. They hate it.
Yep.
This is horrible, and they have Sam Jackson being ultra racist in it. Of course,
Nobody's asking for this. No one.
no.
There's
People are
let me be
begging to
clear.
not have it. Actually,
A very small contingent of Twitter is asking for this because for some reason they've decided that this is the hill to die on, and Rey was the greatest thing to ever happen.
slice bread.
But the rest of the world, the people with money who would be the ones to pay to watch this movie, are not asking for this. We know this for a fact because they consistently lost money per movie.
Yeah.
That shouldn't happen.
Yeah.
In a franchise, not like this. It consistently went down, and we know even in crap franchises, which unfortunately Star Wars has become, that doesn't happen. If they keep making movies, usually it goes up or they stop making movies. Spider-Man 3, for instance, the one that everybody dislikes, made more money than the other 2.
Yeah,
First
they
2 that came
usually
out
do
before.
that. They usually do that.
Yep.
And then it ends it because people are not mad. It's just like The Force
Yep.
Awakens. Like it made money though. Yeah, but you literally shredded off all of your old fans.
It
Right,
made
so-
money off
Yeah.
of cheap nostalgia bait, and people were fine. I was fine with it too. I was like, yes, let's get finally, please do this.
Yeah.
And then they did it, and it was all right, whatever. It was basically just the first movie all over again.
And then Ryan
But-
Johnson happened.
And then Ryan Johnson, and for some reason, and this had to have come from the top because I can't imagine Abrams is this stupid. He never gave us a scene, none of them did, with all of them together.
I know.
Why?
I know.
Why did you not do that?
Because
Ah,
it's all about destroying the past. Kill it if you have to.
so
They told
dumb.
you in the movie, dude. They told you.
I know. I know why, like on an ideological thing, but I don't think Abrams is that guy. Right? I don't
Abrams
think
is-
he's a zealot.
About money.
But yeah, Abrams is about money, and he's
And
just dumb.
He's a hack.
Yes.
He's a hack that only cares about money. He's perfectly
So I
made
think
for
that
modern
came
Hollywood.
from Miss Kennedy herself. She
Yeah,
told him
probably.
not to have them on screen together for some reason she came up with, and that it just never happened. And now it can never happen
Mhm.
ever because she's gone. So
Yep. Oh, they can
Yeah.
CG her. Give them time.
Eh.
Anyway,
And I get the feeling that Ray movie's never going to see the light of day because
no,
I-
I think Disney's going down.
they're in
I really do.
they're in bad shape. That is true. The Palpatines have returned somehow. That's true. But
Somehow
anyway,
the whole family.
yeah, the whole family. Yeah. But I am past my time. I really got to go. So let's wrap
Get out
this
of
up.
here. Chase.
Grimlock, you got anything to say?
Hey, we're about we're a couple of weeks away from the 4th of July, halfway through the year.
A week away.
Yeah.
Go out and get Go out and get a gun for America.
I'd
Next
say so.
Tuesday.
Yeah, guns are fun.
Next
Learn
Best
learn
thing
to
you
shoot
can
it,
do
though.
to celebrate that holiday.
Yeah, learn
Go
to
out
shoot
and
it,
get
though.
yourself on them.
If
Yes,
you
that
hit a
too.
government official, hey, it's in the spirit of the day. It's fine.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Tower, would you like to say something? You're muted,
Tower's
by
good.
the way.
He's quiet. He's quieted out.
I believe.
Yee, y'all. Yee. It's a good day.
I truly hate Generation Z. I hate them.
That's why I do it, just to keep you on your toes.
That's true. That's true. All right, Thunder, take us out of here, man. Please save me.
I'm gonna do a very simple one, Chester, just because you're out of time, and it's a good one, I think. We've been talking about pride all night, and we've been talking about how disappointed myself, and I know you guys are too, on some of these characters, that what they've done to them. And it goes something like this: what good have you done by breaking 2 hearts to mend one?
Mhm.
Those people need to take that to heart.
Yeah.
Listen to it, understand it. That's what they've been doing.
That's what
Ripping-
Mao
they've been-
Zedong said.
Yes, they've been. Did he? They've been spiting their own. What's the term about your nose and your face? They've been doing that term that my brain just lost. But they hate what they see in the mirror, and they've been harming everybody else around them, including themselves, to try and make it right.
Mhm.
And that's a dead end street. We're not
It
getting.
is.
There's no way to win that way.
Well, namaste. And just to correct that, Mao Zedong said it'd be better for half the population to die so the other half could eat their fill.
No, you know.
Namaste.
All right,
Mm-hmm.